Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ferda Boyz Sports-cast. First off, I'm going to mute Pops because there's a lot of echo when it's just me talking. Uh, so he'll just give thumbs up through the whole thing. That's all we're going to do. So first off, before we get into what this is about and everything like that, I just want to give a shout out to everybody down in the States right now, what they're going through. Especially in DC. Today's events were embarrassing for the country, and a lot of people are affected by this and going to continue to be affected by this. So we give our shout outs to our American followers. Hope you are safe, hope you are happy, and hope we can get through this without any more bloodshed. So that being said, take care. So on to what we're doing here. Standing by is our our YouTube channel here. We've done a lot of awesome fun videos on there. If you haven't checked them out yet, please go do that. And we thought we'd branch off into doing other things, so we thought we'd do a sportscast, which is where Ferda Boyz got kind of brought to fruition. So, Baker, do you want to remark on what we're doing here?
Like Derek said, we're going to be doing a sports cast. Mostly we're going to be concentrating on the NHL and hockey in general. We will talk about other sports, whether it be, UFC, MMA, boxing, soccer, football, anything you can think of, anything you guys want to see. We will put in some research. Can't guarantee it's going to be the greatest conversations, but we're willing and we're open to trying. With that, we'll get things rolling here on technically episode 2, but we're going to call it episode 1 for my sake.
For your sake, yeah. Episode 1 technically was our fantasy league draft. We get an update on what's going on, everything like that. So this is the technical episode 1 of Ferda Boyz Sports-cast. So, Pops looks like he wants to say something.
Well, I just have to say that
you have to unmute yourself.
How do I do that? This is going to be an ongoing.
Too many computers. He's not used to playing with 2 computers at once. So.
If we're going to be talking about soccer, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Then I may permanently mute myself. But other than that, I'm freewheeling. Whatever you want to talk about is fine with me.
I mean, I don't feel like we're going to be talking about soccer too much, but you never know. Somebody might want to see an episode of soccer.
I actually have. I'm going to mute here because apparently. There's a kid that follows me on my gaming stream. He's from Wales, now lives in Liverpool, and he talks about football quite a bit. So we might have to do.
We're in trouble.
Well, at least a little bit of a talk about it, right?
Yeah. All right. So today's episode, we are going to be doing a preview of the NHL North Division, also known as the Canadian Division, as all 3 of us live in Canada. So, I mean, I guess the first thing to do is kind of break down how we think the division is going to play out, ranking from last place, 7th place, all the way up to 1st place. So I'll start it out. I think Ottawa is going to end up in 7th place.
Yeah, I've heard.
You have to unmute yourself every time.
Every time.
Yeah. We're just going to keep getting echo. We'll figure that out at some point. I do have a screen that I can put in front of this. So.
My goodness. Well, I'll tell you, I actually am a kind of believer in Ottawa, and I don't know whether it's realistic or not. I think they have great opportunities going forward. I'm just not convinced this is the year, but I think they have enough potential that it just might be good enough to squeak in ahead of Winnipeg, who I think is in big trouble this year.
I mean, anything is really possible. They made a lot of good moves. I just don't think they're strong enough yet to supplant anybody else in the division.
That helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I see your point, and I'm kind of on board with that. But I think if there's a wild card in the Canadian division, I think Ottawa is it, and I think Winnipeg is, given their off season and their struggles with Liney and et cetera, I think they're going to be struggling all year. So I'm going for Ottawa to beat out Winnipeg for that last spot. But having said that, they're really not the ones we're concerned with, because we know,
Yep.
or we're pretty sure that those two teams are going to be 6-7. So
Okay.
Derek?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that echoes a little bit better, right?
Yeah, it's better.
I put a voiceover screen behind it, so
Oh, nice.
it's not quite as bad. Like I'm a toss-up between Ottawa and Calgary, actually.
Ooh.
Right. I don't think Calgary did enough in the offseason to really strengthen the core. They lost a few key players. I like a key defenseman who I think just had a little bit of an off year, who should have been better than what he did, right? That being said, Ottawa, as much as they've done to improve their team, still has a lot of rebuilding to do as far as structure goes, as far as chemistry goes. I mean, they got a lot of new players and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to agree with Baker on this. Ottawa is 7th place.
okay, let's go Ottawa.
So in the 6th hole, I kind of have to agree with Pops there. I think Winnipeg is going to end up in the 6th hole for me. Hellebuck has to have another monster season, and I don't think he is going to, because they have not improved that defense one bit, and I don't think Neil Pionk is going to repeat his 40-plus point season. He's not a premier defenseman as everybody thinks he is, so I think they're going to struggle mightily.
I have to agree. I think they're lacking on defense. And it's funny, when they went from one of the strongest defensive teams in their defensive core to one of the weakest in a matter of 2 years. It's just...
No, it was a matter of 1 year, right? They traded Trouba, and then Bufflin was like, I'm not playing for you.
Exactly. Yikes. And I don't know how you rebuild from that, but I know you have to rebuild, and I don't think they've started. I really don't.
I mean, they have drafted a few decent players, like Ville Heinola on the back end is going to be good, but he's going to still take a year or two before he's anything that resembles a NHL defenseman.
Might take him a little bit. I'm going to go with Calgary for the simple facts of what
Such a bold prediction.
It really is.
I know it's bold. I just don't think they're strong enough, in particularly in net, and I think defensively they're going to struggle a little bit this year. I know they have power up front, but I don't think it's enough. They haven't put those key pieces in that I think are going to help them get there, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, right, TJ Brody's gone. Travis Hamonic is gone. And they overpaid for Jacob Markstrom, who literally had the exact same stats as Mikko Koskinen in Edmonton. I think he's a good goalie.
He's just cold.
Yeah, I think they're relying on the fact that he had a breakout season last year, and they think he's going to be this all-star goaltender, and I think he's going to fall flat on his face. But they have enough firepower up front.
I think flat on his face is a little much of an overstatement.
I mean,
he's
got to
be the Vezina guy that they think he's going to be, right?
No, but he has to play Draisaitl and McDavid 10 times this year.
Right.
And having to play those 10 times in any year is horrible.
Yeah, and I haven't really looked into their defensive core like I should have probably, but I think is Giordano a grandfather yet?
He's getting up there in age, so I mean,
he's got to be close. And I admire him for what he's done, but I don't know how much further you can go. It's the same as our Minister Chara. Sooner or later, it catches up to you.
Well, I said during our draft somebody took Gio pretty high, and I was like, man, it's either going to be a great gamble or the worst gamble of your life, because he's either going to put up big points or no points.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Well, I think
two Winnipegs and a Calgary. I guess it's got to be.
Well, no, Baker's Ottawa, so.
No. We did Ottawa last.
Yeah, he's talking about for sixth place.
For sixth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Calgary, 2 Winnipeg. So Winnipeg takes the majority on this one.
In that 5-hole, just missing out on the playoffs, the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh, holy smokes!
You're talking. I have a bold prediction.
I feel like Demco is going to be a great starter eventually. They're going to rely too heavily on him this year. He's not going to perform to what they expect him to. And I don't think Braden Holtby is the answer either.
I don't think separately they're the answer, but I think as a 1A, 1B, they could be stronger than you think.
I mean, it could work, but I honestly love Holtby to death. I mean, I've taken him, 4 of the last 5 years in the draft, except for this year.
Yeah.
I think he's on the down slope of his NHL career now.
I don't think so. I think he's due for a comeback. I think he's going to.
And that's possible. It's totally possible. But I mean, even looking at Vancouver's defense, after your first pairing of Hughes and Schmidt, it gets pretty rough after that.
Well, who else is back there? I'm trying to remember the guy's name. That's
they have Edler back there.
Edler, yeah,
but
absolutely.
He's been very hot and cold the last couple of years too. So
okay. We're getting into our projection line.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, let's not go too far into that.
Right.
So I'm going Calgary in that 5 spot.
Vancouver.
That's what I mean. You know what I meant.
Yeah. No, I think it's Calgary. And the wild card here is Montreal. I can hardly wait till day one because I'm really excited to see what Montreal can bring.
Man, you'll see, Pops, when we pull up their projected lineup. That's a deep team. I don't remember them being as deep as they are.
No, I don't either. I'm excited.
They just pulled in guys left, right, and center that you wouldn't think would do something, right?
Yeah.
No.
But as is evidenced by Max Domi's tweets here over the last couple of weeks, there was maybe trouble in the dressing room. But I think that's probably been addressed, actually.
I was going to say how much of that was actually Domi making it a problem for himself, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
There was a reason Arizona traded him, too. I'm not saying he's not a good dude, but if you're thinking that, everything's about you and not the team, and you're worried about your ice time and your points more than you are the team winning, there's something wrong there.
Yeah. Hey. You gotta say though, any team would benefit from having a Max Domi.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, and I'm going Winnipeg. Just squeaking out of it, and I put them in this spot. That's where I was hesitant for Calgary and Winnipeg, whether they made it here. I think their depth is a little too far. With guys who don't quite fit, they can still score. Right. So I think they're kind of a shot. It all depends on what Batch does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
Hellebuck.
Hell of a buck. Okay,
all right. So I mean, between the two of you who are Toronto fans and me being a Calgary fan, it kind of blows my mind that you guys have Calgary missing the playoffs and I have Calgary making it in the 4th spot.
You're a Calgary fan?
I hate Calgary. Did I say I was a Calgary fan?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, as a Calgary hater, geez, that was good. I could have faced a lot of backlash there from people.
No kidding.
But no, just as an Edmonton fan, I detest Calgary, but I think the fact that Gaudreau and Monahan had such off years last year that it's not very likely that that's going to happen again, and they're going to come out hot and heavy, and they're going to put up some big points. I mean, they lost Brody and they lost Hamonic. They gained Tanev on the back end, and they have a couple of young guys in Shillington and Valimaki coming up for them. It's going to be interesting to see how they do if it all works out. There's a chance that they could sneak into the 3 spot, but right now I have them in the 4 spot just because Markstrom and Rittich should be a good 1-2 punch.
Guaranteed about that. But I'm just looking here, like, yeah, they just seem to have lost their mojo. I don't know what.
It was weird last year. They kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Yep, and I don't know what it'll take to get it back. Who's going to? Well, of course, we're getting into lineups again, but like it all depends who they put with Goudreau and Monahan.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we get to the lineups, and I'll kind of explain my thinking behind everything.
Sure.
On why we did some projected lineups and why I think they're gonna end up in these spots, but yeah, you never can tell where somebody is gonna end up on that lineup.
No, you really can't.
So, who did you say for your fourth?
I don't know.
No, he didn't say his fourth yet.
Okay, so it's Ottawa. It's Winnipeg, Ottawa. Who did I say was 5?
Calgary, yeah.
So
I had to think about that too.
And number 4 is just about impossible because I'm not sure what Montreal is going to bring. I got to say Montreal because I'm really excited about what Vancouver has the opportunity to bring here. So I'm going to say Montreal.
Yeah, I'm going to say Vancouver. I think Montreal's done too many acquisitions to be behind on this, right? And I know we're getting down to this. Some people are going, "Oh, you guys are Oilers fans and Leafs fans. Of course you're going to put them at the top."
Well, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason. Yeah. Normally there's been years where I've absolutely not put either one of those teams up there, right?
I've always put Toronto at the top.
Those are your happy drinking years, though.
Right, maybe. But there's a good point to make with Montreal with their 1-2 goalie punch. I mean, you know, we've seen Price win them a lot of games, and with his backup now, man, that's strong and
it's a scary 1-2 punch.
It really is, and then obviously with good leadership from Weber and Gallagher, just for starters, and now they got some extra punch with what's his name they got from Vancouver this year, the vet.
Oh, Toffoli.
I mean, geez, but Vancouver's young studs, and what TJ Miller did last year and Hughes did last year, I see them doing some great things. That's why I'm going with Montreal.
I think so. All right, so
we're into number 3, right?
Yeah.
So in my number 3 spot, I'm going with Montreal.
Nice.
Like you said, Price and Allen are a scary 1-2 punch.
Yep.
When we get into the lineups, you're going to see how deep this team really is. They're young guys who nobody thought would perform last year, started to perform, like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And then you add in guys like Tatar possibly having a repeat performance. I think they're going to be scary good, and I think they're going to take that 3 spot.
I can't argue that, except that
you're going to argue it.
Yeah, I'm going to argue it. Right. But that 3-4 is going to be interesting to watch, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Here we go, you guys. 1 and 2.
Well, I didn't say
Yeah, Derek has to say his 3. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just said it.
No.
Pretty much.
Well, basically.
Montreal.
Yeah.
So same points. I mean, we kind of beat the bush when it comes to Montreal. We've been saying them throughout the whole thing. So you would think they're Montreal fans.
But isn't it funny when it comes down to some of these decisions, it's based on goaltending, which is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And if you base it on goaltending, our 1 and 2 are kind of suspect.
I was going to say, my number 2 is my favorite team forever, the Edmonton Oilers. Having that Draisaitl McDavid 1-2 punch down the middle is possibly the scariest 1-2 punch in the NHL.
Absolutely.
And then you add in a guy like Kyle Turris, and your top 3 centers are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty deadly goal.
I mean, we lost Clefbaum on the back end, which is going to hurt a little bit.
It's going to hurt lots.
I feel like a healthy and 1 year older and ready Caleb Jones is going to be just as good, if not better, than a hurt Oscar Clefbaum that played all last year. So, I mean, that's one thing I can look at and be like, well, you know, Clefbaum played hurt the whole year and he was not very good. So if Caleb Jones plays half as good as he did last year, he's fine. Adding Tyson Barrie to that number 1 power play in the last 30 years is going to be scary as hell. I know what Derek's going to say. Derek's going to say. Depends on what Tyson Barrie you get. Yeah. I think there's a lot less pressure on him in Edmonton than there was in Toronto. I mean, the media is kind of the same, except for Toronto. Somehow their media, I don't know, makes it a little bit tougher than Edmonton's.
It's a matter of if Tyson Barrie comes out and decides that was the reason.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. You're dishing the puck to the best player in the world, in Conor McDavid. No matter what, you're going to put up big points.
He's not the best player in the world.
Have you been reading Vancouver tweets? Because they think Elias Pettersson is the greatest player in the NHL. And I was like, you guys are on some crack.
He's an amazing kid. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Some of the stuff he does is just remarkable. But you cannot tell me that he's better than McDavid. You cannot.
You can't even tell me he's as good as Draisaitl.
No. He's a Marner. Right.
He's, you know what? I would rate him a touch better than Marner because he's a center.
Yeah.
But he's a special player, but he's not elite.
But guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, Crosby, McKinnon, Matthews, you can't tell me he's better than those guys.
No.
I'm sorry.
I mean, Vancouver fans will tell you till they're blue in the face that he's better than them, but
they're wrong.
Very much so.
But Edmonton has to have support, and that means James Neal and big dude who I really like to watch.
Kara?
Yeah.
Oh, you like JJ Kara? Ugh.
I really do.
Ugh.
Yeah, I think he's got lots to offer.
Well, we'll trade you Kara and we'll take a bag of used pucks.
No, I've always liked him.
We already got rid of CC. You can't have him.
Yeah. But he's the same as Cassian. He seems to have on and off years or on and off games. And if they can get it all together, and I think this might be the year. I really do.
I think Cassian's more effective just because he's a legit psycho. Legit psycho. You say the wrong thing to Cassian, and he's probably going to rip your throat out.
Yeah.
He posts pictures of himself with bikers, and that's his normal weekend, right?
But you got to have a guy like that on your team, and that's what Toronto's missing is a guy like that.
Well, and I think that's why part of the reason why Edmonton's going to end up in second, because they have a guy like Zach Cassian, who, if anybody tries to do anything stupid, I mean, remember, you're playing these teams 9 or 10 times a year this year, right?
Yeah. And he has a long memory.
Yeah, I was going to say, you touch anybody and Cassian's probably going to kill you.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
The only thing that I think Edmonton is going to struggle with possibly is goaltending.
Yeah, exactly.
And defensively, like we were talking about, some of the guys aren't quite there yet, right?
But this Bouchard,
it'll be interesting to see.
The one I'm excited about watching is Bouchard when he comes in finally.
Yeah.
Probably should have been there last year.
Bouchard and Kukuk, I think, will start on the taxi squad, but that's, again, getting into lineups. I really don't want Mike Smith to be 1B, but unfortunately that's what he is in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And I think that's what our downfall could be, and having us drop a little bit. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see.
Turn him into your starter, then play him as your starter.
Well, they've got to. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't speak for what Dave Tippett's going to do and how he's going to coach that team, but there's a lot of X factors for Edmonton that could work positively or negatively. So
for sure. And for those reasons, I'm putting Edmonton second too. They're an amazing team with the 1-2 punch of McDavid, Draisaitl, and the depth players that they have playing with him and stuff like that. But goaltending and defensively, they're not quite there yet, right?
Well, for me,
similar to what Toronto was like 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's their secondary scoring touch that I think is going to hurt them. I think defensively they're going to be okay. I really do, but you
can't rely on 200 points from 2 players every year.
No, you can't.
But I mean, you can because they've done it for 2 years.
Well, they have. That's true.
Yeah,
they have. I mean, that's the thing, right? So, but against this division, absolutely second place.
Wow.
I'm guessing that's your second place too, Pops.
Oh, for sure. and it's not based on the fact that I'm a Toronto fan.
No,
which I have been.
Because I would rank them where they belong, and I have.
Clearly, it's not favoritism because it's a consensus number 1 pick.
Yeah, there you go.
Toronto is number 1.
You hate Toronto.
And I hate Toronto with a pad. Well, not so much the team.
Yeah.
It's lots of the fans. The fans out east.
Okay. Well, we're actually out east from you.
Well, yeah, everybody. Okay. Ontario, Toronto fans. Is that better?
That's better. And some of them are bad, I'll admit that.
But hey, here's giving some slow claps to the Toronto fans out east. They've always been there.
Yeah.
Didn't matter who owned the team, and I think everybody knows who I'm talking about. Didn't know how bad the team was. They were always there, always been there.
Hey, so you could have had a decade of darkness like Edmonton.
That's right.
We had no playoffs. You've had 50 years of no cup. You at least made playoffs. There was like 12 years where the Oilers didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, and the fans are still there too. Yeah. So
say what you will about hockey fans, but they're loyal to their team, right?
Yep.
And we give our props to each other's teams too. I mean, we dish at each other all the time, but so
well,
unanimously, obviously, the Leafs.
Toronto. Yep.
And I love their pickups this year. I think they got not the right type of grit. I think we're still missing a guy like Cassian.
For sure we are.
But we did pick up grit and, Joe and Bogosian and Simmons, right? And I mean, Simmons is a tougher guy. But, I mean, he's getting up there too, right?
Yeah.
But I think they have a pretty good shot. They have depth, which is actually causing problems as far as what their lineup's going to look like on day 1, right? So.
Definitely. So now that we got that out of the way, go ahead, Pops.
Well, I was just thinking about the depth, and probably no other team in this division has that problem like Toronto does. I mean,
once we get into the lineups, you'll see lots of teams are deeper than you actually realize.
Yeah, but as far as like this goes really, really deep, and like Derek and I were talking about it earlier, and I wouldn't want to be the guy in charge of putting that starting lineup out there.
Honestly, Edmonton, Toronto kind of have the same problem, right? There's a good 5-6 extras that they're going to have on the taxi squad.
Yeah,
that should be on an NHL team.
That is right. We're going to take a short break here, guys. We're going to try to fix our echo problem that we're having. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our whatever you want to call this rig that we got set up here. We're going to figure out how to do sound a little bit better, but for the time being, me and Pops will be off the same mic. So welcome to the studio, Pops.
Yeah, thanks. It's kind of nice to be in here again, but next to my favorite compatriot. You know, I just have to say, and I read this on holycow.com, there's an unprecedented number of people running for public office this year. And the reason is they want to go to Cancun next year.
Confused. They get to go to Mexico for free?
Well, politicians across Canada can go anywhere they want, apparently. So.
Oh.
Cancun is on the list.
It's like, oh. Oh, boy. Oh.
Baker, do you want to explain the Toronto Maple Leaf stuff behind you, because people are going to think you put them in number one spot because you secretly love them. And we know you but...
No, I don't. So I live with a buddy. I live in his basement, and his basement is adorned with Maple Leafs paraphernalia. So unfortunately, I am surrounded by Maple Leaf stuff that I can't cover.
I love that guy. Don't even know him. I love him.
I hate all of you. Just kidding. So now that we got our best to worst finishers for the Northern Division out of the way, I guess we can jump into kind of looking at projected lineups here.
I just want to see if this works, because I'm going to use it in a future. No, it doesn't. I don't know how to actually spin the wheel.
Well, it's a good thing we decided not to do it then.
It doesn't let me spin it. All right. So.
You might have to get closer sometimes when you speak too.
Oh yeah, it's because I'm turning my head.
Yeah. So do we want to start west to east or east to west? Obviously, we're going to be skipping Edmonton and Toronto until the very end because we know those two the best.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think we start in the east.
Okay.
Because we had Toronto, Edmonton, and then Montreal. So we might as well start with Montreal.
Okay. Let me pull up my little handy-dandy information I got going here.
For sure. And I got those already queued up on here so we can show the fans what we're talking about.
Perfect.
So we'll give them a quick preview. These are the projected lineups for Montreal for starting day. All these were supplied by our local hockey expert, Baker, over here.
Should this be coming over my page too? Should I be able to see this?
No.
Okay.
It's on my streaming thing, not on Zoom.
Okay, well I can't see anything then. I can't. So you'll have to.
Tatar, Denault, Gallagher on the top line. Jordan, Suzuki, Anderson, Josh Anderson, not Joey Anderson.
Right.
Toffoli, Kotkaniemi, and Armia on the third line, and Byron, Evans, Lehkonen on the fourth line.
Holy cow.
So yeah, like I said, they're a super deep team up front.
No kidding.
That's an interesting mix. So did you find this on another site?
Yeah, I can't remember the name from it. But shout out to you because I still hear lineups. But out of all the ones I read, this was the one that made the most sense.
To a certain extent, I'm a little curious about Suzuki and Kotkaniemi especially Kotkaniemi being down in the third line.
I think that's all you're going to see out of Kotkaniemi. I don't think he's going to be a top two. The two that I would switch around possibly would be Deneau and Suzuki. I could see those two switching in the 1-2 center roles. But if your biggest problem is that Tyler Toffoli is your third line winger, you've got a pretty damn good team.
Where's Drew at?
Second line.
Second line. Left wing.
Yikes. Frolik?
I might change Armia and Anderson.
Did they sign for a leak?
Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't come up on mine.
Corey Perry?
Oh yeah, Perry came in.
I mean, holy smokes,
I
you
don't know
guys.
where you got these.
Honestly, I think Corey Perry is going to be on the taxi squad anyways. I knew
I
he
don't
was
think
there.
so.
I don't think he's good enough to make that team in the top four or in the top four lines.
I do. They
Frolik is kind of in the same kind of an area.
But you know, Baker, as well as we do, that teams build around their stars. However, there's always a veteran presence.
To an extent, yeah.
And that's what, historically makes a successful franchise.
But I mean, it all depends on how their camp goes, right? He was playing like third or fourth line in Dallas last year,
Yep.
and they didn't have near as deep as a team as Montreal does.
Yeah, very true. But who else have you got there right now that's veteran? And I'm talking guys that have been through the
old veteran, yeah.
old veteran that's been to the
Paul Byron.
yeah. But
That's about it.
nobody's been to the finals.
I don't think anybody on that team has been in the finals, anyways.
Toffoli.
Well,
and
Perry.
Toffoli and Perry.
Yeah, Toffoli, I guess.
So I think he's going to be there.
It'll be interesting to see, like we keep talking about with depth teams. And I don't know why I have that for Montreal. Weird.
They got Armia.
Yeah, here's all the current, like, the signed players from this offseason. Brandon Baddock, Xavier Ouellette, Josh Anderson, Victor Mite, Tyler Toffoli, Michael Frolik, Corey Perry. So there's arguably they have signed 4 key pieces to that forward lineup if Perry and Frolik make the team.
I think they make a strong argument for that. I don't think you could, like, Perry in particular is a veteran presence, right? Same as guys like Toffoli and Tatar, guys like that came onto the team, right?
He has some intangibles.
Yeah, and I don't think you can keep him off. I think he's a fourth liner for sure. Possibly third liner if he plays like Perry can play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd put him in there for sure. I would. It's just, who do you take out, right? Same as we're having troubles with the Leafs and the Edmonton's having problems, and I mean, there's so much depth there that, like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
You sign so many players and you have so many spots. I mean, thankfully you have a taxi squad and you're going to switch guys out. I mean, they're playing every second night. You can't expect these guys to go the whole 56 games playing every second night. I mean, that's what they're conditioned for and that's what they're paid for, but you know what I mean.
And I mean, that's what that taxi squad and 23-man squad is for, right?
Yeah.
Is to carry these extra guys.
Yeah.
So they'll be there no matter what. It just depends on who's going to start.
Correct.
What's their D look like?
Let's look at their D.
Yeah,
So,
just looking at this Joel Edmondson.
Sherratt, Weber first, Edmondson, Petrie on the second, and Kulak and Romanov on the third.
Now, every lineup card that I had looked at had Romanov in there. I don't know too much about him. I believe he's a rookie. But I mean, if everybody's slating him in to be on that third pairing defense, I have to agree with them.
Romanov.
Alexander Romanov, I believe.
Where did he come from? Did they take him right overseas?
I don't know if he was a pick or if he was a signing.
Montreal Canadiens drafted 38th overall in 2018 by Montreal.
There you go. So 2 years ago.
So he's been
Through.
playing over with HC in Moscow. Let's see, take a look at the stats here.
Wow.
Oh, jeez. 43 games played, 4 points. 43 games, 7 points. Plus minus is decent. That might be why they have him on.
I was going to say, so not much offense going on, but definitely could be a solid defender.
And that's what Montreal kind of has always base their picks on is defense.
Well, I mean, they've got, right, Weber, Petrie, and Kulak are pretty offensive defensemen already, so.
Yeah, but not offensive defensemen like we classify offensive
No.
defensemen.
No.
Goaltending, obviously.
Yeah.
Carey Price, Jake Allen. Don't need to spend too much time on that.
No.
Probably one of the top 3 goalies in the NHL, and possibly one of the top 3 tandems in the NHL right now.
I would think so. Absolutely.
For sure. That's a scary duo. If Allen plays like old Al.
He will.
I mean, he stole the net away from Binnington in the playoffs last year, right?
Exactly.
But he's hot and cold. We keep
Mm-hmm.
talking about hot and cold, and hopefully he's hot when he's put in the net. I mean, Price is going to get the workload.
Oh, definitely.
56 games this year. You can't expect the backups to play more than 5 or 6 games. 10 games tops.
Tops, I would think.
You know what? In that Price situation, I probably play Price in a 30, 35 games, and then have Allen take the other 20 games just to keep Price fresh for the playoffs.
Yeah, but
How can you not play Price?
exactly. And Price is one of those guys. The more games he plays, the better he gets.
Yeah.
When he's not injured, that's the problem,
Well, there's that.
right? You overwork him, I think he's going to get injured again.
Maybe.
All right, so
Jeez.
that kind of does it for Montreal. But
That's a scary team.
My brother's been a Montreal fan forever. And over the last 5 or 6 years, he's kind of leaning towards Edmonton and Winnipeg. And I think this year he may make the switch back because they look pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of
All right.
funny when you talk about it. We've been a Leaf fan through everything, and he's like, "Oh, Montreal's not great. I'm gonna go."
I
Winnipeg."
never thought I'd ever see the day that he would say that.
all right, so we'll jump straight over to Ottawa.
For sure. So Ottawa made some pickups this year.
Tons.
So Kachuk,
They have
Stepan, Dandinoff.
Yep.
Dandinoff is. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Well, he had a big year in Florida last year, so.
Galchenyuk, Stützle, Connor Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Been impressed with Connor since he went over there. Witt, Norris, Batherson, and Paul, Tierney, and Watson. So that's the forward. I'm not too familiar with most of these guys. Like Josh Norris was obviously a draft pick. I think he's originally one of them had him ranked playing the second line center role. I think that's way too high for him right now, especially when you have a guy like Stützle who had the tournament that he did in the World Juniors this year. Yeah.
I think Stützle takes that 2 slot easy. Norris is going to be a decent third liner this year with potential of being top 6. It just kind of depends on where everybody's going to be shifted to play, which is the tough part with Ottawa. Is they've got so much versatility right now. Like Galchenyuk can play center too, right?
Yeah.
Colin White is there.
Yeah. It's
Colin
they're a
White
lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Like I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself of elite level players. I mean, Stützle eventually, if they develop him correctly, could be an elite player, right?
Yep. Kachuk.
Exactly.
To a certain extent,
I'm
I think
hesitant to put Kachuk as an elite player.
Are you?
I think he's going to be better than Matthew once he gets somebody to play with.
I think so too. Well, man, Matthew is pretty hard.
Matthew's a shit disturber. There's a big of a different right. They're different types of players.
Yeah, but he's like Marchand.
I was gonna say I consider Matthew Kachuk a Marchand, whereas
We just had this conversation earlier.
go ahead.
I know. If I was making a team, I would want one of those guys, if not both of them, on my team.
Me and Derek already had this discussion. There's only 2 players that I wouldn't want on my team, and they're Brad Marchand and Matthew Kachuk.
Oh man, I would take them both in a second.
I hate cheap shots. I just can't have them on my team.
I love them.
But like I said, Matthew plays more of a Marchand type game, whereas Brady, I feel, plays more of a like a Ryan Getzlaf type game,
Yeah,
right?
you're absolutely right. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I talk about development like I'm talking to Stutzel. Is I don't know if Ottawa has a strong enough development core to turn these guys into the elite players that they need to be.
I mean, they developed Erik Karlsson fine enough.
Yeah, and look what happened when he got traded away. The only reason that he played good is because he was the only player on the team that could do something.
Stützle is pretty much the only player that can do something right now. That's not true. Riley would kill me for saying that, but
I'm just saying, like the development. They develop to a certain play style, right? They develop them to the Ottawa way of thinking, which hasn't been a way of thinking for winning in a long time.
Well, I don't know. They went to the semifinals here 2 years ago, so I mean, there's something there. I'm looking at the lineup right now with Matt Murray in goal and the prospect of whether Galenchuk can make a comeback and things like that. I mean, they could be right on the cusp to something tremendous.
The only thing I'd be worried about is their defense. Now, I did not include because they made a trade last week, I believe, where they picked up Braden Coburn as well.
Mm-hmm. Shabbat is
Brandstrom, Zub,
Willanen. Mm-hmm.
And Justin Brown, is it?
Yeah, Josh Brown. And see, I could see Coburn slotting into one of those spots as well. Even though Coburn is crazy, crazy slow and kind of like a pylon out there now, he is a veteran presence back there and would be able to teach the kids lots.
Shabbat is something.
Definitely. But their defense is something to be desired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Brand,
they didn't make the pickups that they needed to behind them, and I mean we saw that with Toronto and Edmonton over how many years, where they did everything offensively, but just you need defense wins games, right?
Yeah.
Wins championships.
And I mean, Brandstrom, I think, is going to develop into an amazing defenseman as well. It just depends on if he's ready or not.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how far that they can go.
Well, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it's a rebuilding team, so you can't expect too much. But rebuilding teams we've seen can surprise a lot of people. Toronto's always had trouble with Ottawa, for instance.
Yeah.
So you just never know. They could be there.
Yeah, I don't know though. And yeah, we have seen it. Like we've seen with the Islanders in particular.
Yeah.
And Rangers. I mean, the Rangers had a 5-year plan, and the next year they were a force, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that had to do with Sabanishev, and then goalies.
And there they could be all right? Depends if Matt Murray is injured, if he stays healthy. That could be their X factor to why they could sneak in a couple spots higher, possibly sneak in that 4 spot. If Matt Murray plays like Stanley Cup Matt Murray.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Murray's going to be the key there.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think Hogbert's got enough to carry them. If Murray goes
no, he's a decent number 2, but he's not going to be able to carry them. Matt Murray is their X factor.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so now we jump over to Winterpeg.
Yeah. So we got Connor Scheifele Wheeler, line 1. Ehlers, Stastny, line A, line 2. Kopp, Lowry, and Perreault on line 3. And Harkins, Tompkins, and Appleton on line 4.
Yeah, big news there on the forward lines.
Yeah.
Jack Roslovic has not re-signed and has demanded a trade. So he's sitting at home unsigned until he gets traded.
Oh.
And Roslovic, to me, was a pretty big piece of their team.
That's what I say. There's something not right in Winnipeg.
No, when you get a player second overall who's a pure goal scorer and then struggles as much as he does, wants to be traded out, I mean, and I'm wondering if it's a upper management issue, right?
I think it's a coaching thing.
You think so?
I think it's a Paul Maurice problem.
Oh, I can't see that.
I can.
Really?
It's
Man, I'm a big Maurice fan.
I like him, but if you look at every team he's coached, there has been problems with people wanting out. I'm guessing he's just not a player's coach. He's a good coach, but not like you look at like Dave Tippett or somebody like that.
Well, he's tough
who
on
can
his players. He's an old school coach, but
that's what I mean, right? He's not what you would consider a player's coach anymore.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to make that statement because I'm in love with Maurice. I mean, I have been since the day he started there.
Pops, is there something you should tell us?
Well, I'm not allowed to go into Manitoba.
So
okay.
it's interesting, but there's not a depth there that
they
needed to win, right?
They were a two-line team.
Exactly. And we've seen two-line teams do great in the NHL, but they need defense behind them, and they need goalies, which we're going to get into here. So defense, we got Morrissey and Niku, we got Forbert and Pionk and Berlot and Pinello.
Boy, wow, what a change, eh?
Right?
It's Bully, by the way.
Whatever his name is, he doesn't belong there.
No, he's actually pretty decent. But,
Just straight up, he does not belong there.
I mean, decent, sure, but does he belong there? I mean, when you look at depth within D, does he belong in that role? And what their defense used to be back when they went deep into the playoffs to what they are now.
But you add those two defensemen back on that team, that D's deadly again, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have Morrissey and Bufflin, and then you would have Trouba and whoever. Yeah.
Weber.
I forgot Myers is gone too. Exactly. So they've lost three big defensemen there.
Oh, for sure. And that's just that was the. I mean, can you imagine being a player going into Winnipeg and playing up against these monsters, and now it's gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, your defensemen are averaging like 6 foot.
So the threat is gone. So guys go in there with a completely different mindset, right?
Oh, guaranteed. Like guys like a Chuck eat teams like that up because nobody will protect them.
For sure they will. So,
I like Morrissey. Morrissey is a player's player, but he's not a
top two defenseman.
No. He's not
simple as that. No.
I mean, I have him in the league this year, and I picked him up for the simple fact that he's playing first pair minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to get me points. I mean, you're dishing it to Wheeler, Scheifele, and Laine. I mean, but
there's the question mark.
That's the question mark.
Yep.
So.
And then goaltending, they're solid still.
Oh.
If, and that's a big if, Connor Hellebuck can repeat as a Vezina caliber goaltender.
He's going to start out slow like he does every year, and I think that's why I had him rated where they do, is because as awesome as his stats are at the end, and as much as he gets rolling, he gets on this amazing streak at the end of the season to get them into the playoffs and be this Vezina goaltender. He's almost like a Freddie, right? He starts slow, and it takes a little while to get in. And I noticed this with him year after year, and we only got 56 games to get revving. Right?
Yeah, you can't have a slow start.
And guys like Freddie Anderson, for example, has been in Toronto for the last 2 months training with the goalie coaches. Apparently looks better than ever. But we don't hear that about guys like Hellebuck and Smith and Costin, like guys like that, right?
Well, I mean, I do, but
yeah.
But you know, there's a thing about a 56 game season that's going to be different than any other season, because guys going in know that, right? It's not like, okay, we have an 80 game season, we'll warm up to being good, blah blah blah. These guys know that they have to come on fire like right now.
Yeah, but they only have a 13-day training camp, exactly. No exhibition games.
But But I think what the difference is the competitive edge. And I don't think there's anybody, as Smith is like that too. The competitiveness of Smith and Hellebuck and guys like that is probably second to none. So I think in a 56-game season, these guys are going to come ready.
I mean, I agree but disagree. Excuse me. Just because you're competitive doesn't mean you're not going to have a slow start, right? You can get in there with all the confidence thinking you're going to have a huge year, and then you can just shit the bed. I mean, look at Mike Smith in December. Mm-hmm. The Oilers were like number one in the NHL for a month, and then Mike Smith decided he didn't want to play hockey for a month, and the Oilers were almost out of a playoff spot.
Well, I mean, you could say that about Anderson in October, too. So, but
you could say that about any of them, but like we were talking earlier, is the All-Stars are going to come to play.
Yep.
And I'm talking mostly about goal scorers, right? Because they have a completely different mentality where they see the ice different, they're faster, they just tend to make it happen. So we're going to see hat tricks like crazy. We're going to see 4 or 5 goal games like crazy because these guys are going to come out here. And it's all a matter of whether that goalie's going to be prepared at the start and whether he's not. And I love Hellebuck. I love what he's done there. I love that he's carried that team, but I just don't think he has that edge that's going to get him started right at the start of the season.
I disagree. Because I think just like the All-Stars we're talking about, it's that competitive edge that they have over other players that makes the difference. And I think guys like Hellebuck and Mike Smith, there's a couple other guys that come to that have that extra little something that takes them over the top.
I guess.
Mike Smith's side of that,
I would argue. I would argue the Mike Smith side of
everything. Mike Smith as an example because of his competitiveness.
Yeah,
but
you look at Oilers fans when they re-signed Mike Smith. It wasn't like, hell yeah, we re-signed Mike Smith. It was like, oh shit, we re-signed Mike Smith.
Well, that's true.
Why did you do this?
And I guess the one thing we do have to remember, because we are in a Canadian division and we're only playing Canadian division teams, every game is worth 4 points this year.
Exactly.
It's not
4 points.
Well, it right, because if you're playing a team in your division, it's a 4-point game, right? Because you'll go up 2 and they're 2 back, so it's 4 points. So every game is a 4-point game, whereas before you would be in, like when you're playing teams not in your division, it's literally just a 2-point game. So it's going to be a lot of.
A little weird on that one, but yeah, I get where you're coming from.
It's not though. It's not, because you're +2 and the other team is -2. It's 4 points.
Well, they're not -2 points. You don't lose 2 points.
No, but it's in hockey terms, it's a 4-point game, right? Because it's not just a 2-point game. Because the other team is staying stagnant and the other team is going up. So they're gaining 2 points while you're not getting 2 points. So that's a total of 4 points. It doesn't work like that in the actual points totals. I know you're confused. I'm way too hockey smart for you, Derek.
Or something completely different. Anyways,
No, literally, go watch any interview with any of the sports guys, and they're like, every game's a 4-point game this year.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. No, I just it doesn't work like that. But okay.
It does work like that.
Okay, moving on. Calgary this year.
Oh, Calgary.
The team that's gonna bomb.
Well, or surprise everybody. But,
Nope. Bomb.
Gaudreau, Monahan, Lindholm, line 1.
Manjapane.
Manjapane.
Yeah.
Backlund, Kachuk.
Can you try saying his name again?
Yeah, do that.
Manjapane.
Mangapan.
Mangopan. Lucic, Bennett, and Dubé.
Dubé.
Norrstrom. You missed a lot of letters, by the way, when you're making these lists.
I think it just cut off letters.
Like Norstro, you had White as Wit.
Yeah, it cut off a lot of things for me.
So Nordstrom, Ryan, and got it. So that's the forward group.
Yeah.
It's very bad. Calgary is not a very deep team.
that first line is something for sure.
Mm-hmm. The first two lines are decent.
They picked up Levo. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
When did they trade for?
But again,
I missed that.
Josh Levo is with the people they have and the people they had last year. Josh Levo is one of those possible fourth liners or taxi squad guys.
Yeah, and
on this team.
for sure. But wow, what a guy to have as your taxi squad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's good to have there. I would honestly like put Milan Lucic like in your hot dog stand and bring Lucic. Like,
Well, he had a good season last year.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was a force, right?
Was he?
it wasn't really.
Well,
In that giant brawl between Edmonton and Calgary, was Lucic a factor?
Yeah, well,
Did he do anything after to try to like, hey guys, maybe I should punch somebody in the face to to enact some revenge for Mike Smith beating the absolute shit out of Cam Talbot? No, he stood there going, let's do that hockey.
I lift things. I lift them
Yeah.
up and I put them down.
I mean,
That's what I do.
nice dude, but he is no longer an NHL caliber hockey player.
oh,
That might be stating a bit much, but
A little far, but definitely not as effective as he used to be. I mean, as soon as he was out of Boston, he just wasn't the same. So
yeah, as an Oilers fan, I have a jaded opinion on Milan Lucic.
yeah. Well, we've seen 2 or 3 different Milan Lucic.
I mean, right now he's listed as 6'3", 231 pounds. In an age of like fast hockey where you have to be fast on your feet, 231 pounds isn't getting you anywhere.
Yeah.
well, we know guys that are 230 pounds at 6'3", but we also know guys that are 230 pounds at 6'6" who can just tower over him now. Right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say big difference, 3 inches in height.
Yeah. I mean, he's wide. And even the 230-pound guys that are 6'3". I mean, Matthews is 220 pounds at 6'3".
Yeah.
6'2", something like that.
Yeah, so he put up the exact same 20 points last year as he did the year before when he was with Edmonton.
Yeah.
So not a good year.
Anyways, they don't have a lot of depth on that team. First line looks amazing. Second line is very decent. But after that, it's kind of like, who are these guys really, right?
Pretty much.
Like I said, they got rid of too many key players and didn't bring enough in to actually make that much of a difference.
Well, Tenav's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I want to hear you pronounce some of these defense names.
I should let you do it.
Me? Petrovic?
Not even there, like the ones off my projected list.
Giordano, Tanev on the first pair, Hannafin,
Nice.
Anderson, second pair, Valimaki, and Kellington?
Nope. Shillington.
Why
Yes.
the hell does it start with a K?
Right? The Swedes, I tell you.
The Swedes.
Let's put K and Y together and call it a SH.
Perfect.
My goodness.
I like the pickup of Tanev,
I do too.
and Gio's always a force. I mean, you can't count him out.
No, like I said, it's going to be hit or miss with Gio this year. He's 39 now.
Yeah, but we've seen guys are getting older and older in this league and still playing to a decent level.
Well, he's able to do that because of his competitiveness. But
I was going to say, is it really?
Don't use the C word. You can't say that.
Could always turn into Brian Burke and just start saying they have a lot of truculence.
You gotta say exactly like that with spits in your mouth too. They have a lot of
Truculence.
truculence.
It's like succulents, but truck.
Yeah, like looking at this, it's not an
Like-
amazing D squad.
nobody
I mean,
jumps out at you, right?
Well, yeah, like Gio's gonna do decent. Tana's gonna do pretty good. You know, Hannafin is always kind of there, right? But it's not,
He's a meh. He's a tweener.
You don't have those guys that stand out as your elite defenseman, and that's what they're missing. And I mean, they
Mm-mm.
got rid of the one guy that they could have used in that position, in particular,
With Brody, yep.
with Brody. And I think they dropped the ball on that one. But So it'll be interesting to see. It really will. This is. I mean, you can never count Calgary out. It's Calgary.
No.
Right?
Well, and goaltending is kind of where it gets interesting for me.
Markstrom and Riddick.
You signed Markstrom to a 7-year, $6+ million contract. He had a .917 save percentage. You look in Edmonton, Koskinen is making $4.5 million. Excuse me, and had a .916 save percentage. They had the exact same stats, and one is considered elite and one's not. I don't buy it.
Having a good goaltender puts confidence in the team, and it raises.
I agree.
Right, it raises their performance. We've seen it in Montreal. We saw it in St. Louis. So they put all their stones in a basket here with
Markstrom.
And if it doesn't pan out, they're
in
be
trouble.
number 7.
I mean,
Very
Rittich is a capable backup.
For sure he is.
You saw after that that cocky kind of bat throw or stick flip that he did against Edmonton, and when he in the shootout. After that, he was absolute dog shit. Like, right? That's the kind of player he is. He's either. Oh, I hate him so much. I want Lucic on my team again just so he can run Rittich. Better yet, we'll let Cassian boot him in the chest or something. He has a history of doing that, so.
Anyways, Calgary's a lackluster team that can still compete. I think they lost the components to really compete, but you can't count them out. I mean, it's Calgary. We've seen them do amazing things with less than this.
I don't know about less. I mean, they don't have a lot there.
No.
And you know, like in addition to their goalie having to be on top of his game, that first line has to start performing, and they haven't for the last 2 years.
I was going to say, Goudreau and Monahan have to get their poop in a group.
Exactly.
It's time to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, or they're gone.
They're poop in a group.
I mean, if I'm a Calgary fan and I'm watching this, I'm thinking, if you don't do it this year, you're dead to me.
It's rebuild time.
Absolutely.
If you're a Calgary fan and watching this,
well, it's rebuild time.
Get off my channel.
No, don't get off.
Not actually.
Viewers.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're gonna have kind of the same conversation coming up next with Vancouver, right? So. I mean, we might as well just skip right into it and get into Vancouver's lineup as well.
Yeah, I think so, because there's really not much you could say about Calgary
That we haven't yelled already.
Yeah.
So Vancouver Canucks, you got Miller, Pettersson, and Besser. Pearson, Horvat, Virtanen. Hoglander, Goddett, and Hawker.
And what?
Hawkerluck.
Harker.
Oh, Hauerluck.
Hawkerluck.
Yeah.
Hawkerluck.
Hawkerluck.
And Mott, Beagle, and McEwen. So that's the forwards. And honestly, I thought this team was deeper than that.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, when you look at Vancouver, everybody's like, oh, their team's so good. They're so good. They're so deep. That's not a deep team and not a good team.
Nope.
Yeah, JT Miller's first line.
Yeah.
Get past the first.
2 lines.
I mean, even Horvat. Horvat's a good player. He's not a great player.
Oh, yeah, he's a great player.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's good defensively. He's not going to help them offensively very much. Besser has to pick up his stocks as well this year.
He will.
Yeah. I mean, Miller's always good for, 50 points a year? Something like that?
Is he?
50?
So I was going to say, I think last year was his breakout year, right?
Yeah.
If Furland can withstand the pressure.
He can't. He's injured. He's done season.
He's out for the season?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing. I watched him play over the last few years. I would have put him on my team any day. And then,
Oh yeah,
and then he started having brain injuries, right? From
like concussions, man.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, so last
do some amazing things. Obviously, Besser's always there. Miller's always there. Horvat's, he's gonna help your team. He's not gonna hinder it.
no.
absolutely.
Last year was Miller's like only huge year.
I hope not. I got him in my draft.
Right back in 16-17, he had 56 points, but then it was 40 points, 18 points, 47 points, and then last year he had 72. So to me, that tells me he can go either way, right? He can have the same kind of year or drop back, right?
Well, like I said, he's a 50-point player. If you look at that year that he only had 17 points or something like that, I think he got injured that year. He only played like 30 games, something like that.
Yeah,
19.
Yeah.
but the question mark might be their defense, including their goaltending. But their defense, they lost Tanev and they lost. There was another guy too that doesn't come to mind right at the moment. So
Stetcher
Stetcher
and Hutton.
So I mean,
So they lost three.
I mean, I can hardly wait to see him play. He's an exciting player.
Well, speaking of Quinn Hughes,
But he's
And
not,
I will note this as well. So they did sign Travis Hamonic to a PTO. I did not include him on the list because he does not have a contract yet.
oh,
okay. Defensively, we're looking at Hughes with Schmidt, Edler,
Schmidt's a big pickup.
and Myers,
Yep.
and Jalobin.
Uo Levy.
I'm English.
Jalobin?
I speak English. I don't speak foreign language at it.
well, they should put on the brackets. This is how you say the word.
Right?
I guess I should have put that in there for him.
So you'll
I know for next time.
and Rathbone. Like if I can't pronounce your name, like if I haven't heard your name enough in this league to know how to pronounce your name, you don't deserve to be there.
You just start calling them Jalobin.
Jalobin.
Plus,
Whatever I call the other guy.
plus they got Tyler Myers, which is always an asset.
Yeah, that helps.
Like I'm not big on the Tyler Myers train like everybody else is.
I think it'll work out well for them.
I think if he played more like who's the big defenseman for Montreal that just left last year? He was defensive defenseman, played with Subban.
Oh, Jordy Ben?
No, Markov,
Oh, Markov.
right?
Markov wasn't that big though.
No, but he was defensive.
big.
He played
Okay.
big, and he
I was
played
like,
defensive
he was only
game.
like 6'2".
But he was strong and defensive. And they left Tyler Myers alone to do that, he'd be fine. But they want to make him offensive, and I think that's a mistake with him.
But I also think if you leave Tyler Myers alone to try to develop, he doesn't. I don't think, like, he's got the tools. I don't think he has it upstairs.
Really? Wow.
Like,
Sorry,
his
Tyler,
hockey.
if you're watching this.
No, I mean, like, great hockey. He's a good hockey player. I just don't think his hockey IQ is high enough to be able to develop into, like a top 2 defenseman.
So you're thinking Cody Ceci is that's
Yeah,
really?
very much like Cody Ceci. Has all the tools to be a great defenseman, just doesn't have it upstairs to put it all together.
Yeah. I don't know.
You just said that CC has the tools to be a great defenseman.
No. Myers has the tools, just not
No,
the brains.
Ceci does too. Ceci's got tools in his toolbox,
No,
but his toolbox has been left open.
all he's got in there is a bunch of loose screws. That's all he's
Yeah, it's been left open and everything's kind of just poured out.
I don't know.
My sports analogies are just ridiculous, apparently.
And Edler, of course.
Yeah, Edler's going to help there. And Jordy Ben if they get him in there, but I don't think.
He'd be taxi squad.
Well,
Like I
he'll
said,
play.
he's-
I think he'll play.
That's right. I put Yule Levy and Ben kind of in there
Yeah.
with a slash.
Yeah.
Because it depends on how they want to go, right? If they want to go more defensive, they'll go Ben. If they want to go more offensive, they'll go Yule Levy.
Right. Yep, I agree.
They got the right tools there. It's just a matter of their system.
Yeah, Jay Beagle, I'd put him on my team.
I like him just because of his last name.
Yeah, right.
So Demco Holtby, we kind of already touched on them.
Has potential to be a great tandem, but also the same equal potential to be the absolute worst tandem in the NHL.
And I go back to this, you can't count Holtby out ever.
I'm going to.
Oh, I know you're going to, because you like to say everything opposite of what I say.
Well, that and I had Holtby the last 3 years in my draft.
Yeah, it's funny what happens with goaltenders, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, from Vezina to
dog shit.
Yeah, get in the back door.
Vezina to being beat out by like a 23-year-old who's played 3 games in the NHL.
Exactly.
Well, look at the progression in Pittsburgh with Fleury, then Murray, then Yari.
Yeah, that was just luck of circumstance. Like, how many times does a team draft like 4 or 5 goalies back to back? That's Surplant. Yeah. Right? Like, Fleury is still a great goalie. Matt Murray's still a great goalie. Yeah. DeSmith is still a good goalie who is there with Jari.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind how you can draft that many decent goalies.
Yeah, it really is.
But you look at like Fleury's get to the point where he's gonna start being a backup sooner than later.
This year,
probably.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, I think he'll play more than a normal backup, but
I don't think they want to make Leonard mad in Vegas.
Yeah, but I don't think you can make Leonard mad that
you don't play Leonard. I think he's gonna snap his crayons.
I don't think so. Not considering who's going in.
And smack you with it.
I mean, if it was a 24-year-old that was going to go in place of you, then I could see it. But not Fleury. Fleury's a different animal altogether.
Personally, I still think they should have traded him when they had the chance.
I can't believe they didn't.
It'll be interesting, anyways.
Wouldn't he be great in LA as a backup to Quick? That would be cool.
Well, I think
there's another goalie who is going to be absolute garbage this year.
He's already garbage.
Yeah, he was last year.
Yeah.
Right? He was so good for so many years, and all of a sudden it's like, nope, you're terrible.
Yeah, I think Quick's time has come.
Well, it looks that way, but we've seen guys turn it around. Actually, we haven't seen it for a long time.
No.
But I am saying that Holtby's going to. Bobrovsky. I am saying that it's going to happen with Holtby this year. That's that's my one and only prediction this year.
That's your hope because he's on your team.
Well, that too.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's everybody except for Edmonton and Toronto.
Where do we want to go, Foo?
Fill up our drink and have a smoke and get everything set. And then we're going to do our not as short conversations about Edmonton.
Did you say grab a new set? Did you say grab? Oh, I was like, grab a new set, eh?
Oh, man. This stream is going fantastic. We'll be more organized next time, guys.
No, we won't.
No, probably not. But we hope you're laughing, having fun, drinking lots, because that's the only way you're going to make it through this.
And agreeing with me.
Yeah, Pops is normally right.
And old.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Alright guys, we're back. Before we go any further, I'm going to give a shout out to, I'll just say Toxic. That's his...
Can we just call him Liverpool?
Liverpool, yeah. I do streaming on Twitch, Naughtiest DeSantis, so if you guys want to watch some gameplay, you can do that. But got this younger fellow from Liverpool that came on, and I told him about the stream, and he went and watched some of our standing by videos that we put up. And at the beginning, if you guys have watched our standing by, you know that we say, you know, my name is D, and then Husky says some random stupid thing, usually to make both of us laugh, which is, it happens. Anyways, he went off the stream and came back about 20 minutes later. He says, I got a question for you. I said, okay, yeah, what's that? He says, did Husky really do the Macarena with 2 cats?
Hey, I have a question for you. What's his name? Toxic?
Toxic.
Is from Wales, so he's Welsh. So is he Welshinian?
Welshionese?
Welshionese?
I think they just say, I think they're just like, I'm Welsh.
Welshionite?
Welshville? Welshvillian? It's not a Ville, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you can't just add Ville to things.
You're Edvillian.
Canadavillian.
Well, Barvillian.
Barvillian.
Sounds like a villain.
Sounds like
a horrible, horrible villain. I am the bar villain. All right, so let's get back into this. Where do we want to start? Do we want to start Toronto or Edmonton?
Well, Edmonton, because we all said Toronto #1, so we'll leave.
Well, then we should start with Toronto.
Why?
Edmonton.
Baker?
Because F Toronto, that's why.
You're banned from this stream from now on.
Well, there goes your viewership.
What viewership? We have 1 viewer.
Yeah, there it goes. Because I'm logging out.
It's probably the guy from Liverpool. So
I hope so. That'd be funny.
The person who keeps coming into the chat, feel free to send a chat to us, ask us questions. We are here to ask questions and answer them. So.
It just died.
Did it? Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
All right, well, let's get into Edmonton's lineup then.
Okay, I got one question for you to start this.
Okay.
What do you think of Jesse Puljujarvi? Is he going to make the starting lineup?
Oh, definitely.
And do you think he's going to make that much?
You know what? It's right now, listening to all the interviews from the players, like Darnell Nurse and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins,
yep.
They were there when he left
right.
a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, however long it was.
Right.
They're saying he's a completely different player this year. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. He understands and speaks better English, so he can communicate a lot better. And they said he's all around just a more mature person.
Oh, nice.
And even he admitted to the coaches and the coaching staff that he didn't handle things the right way, and that he just wasn't mature enough to be away from his home.
Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully with that kind of mentality, he's going to start on the third line, most likely with Kyle Turris and Tyler Ennis.
Oh, nice.
And hopefully works himself to the right side, taking over for Cassian beside McDavid.
Yeah.
I'm
really excited to see him play because I've liked him right from day one. I just thought there was some little thing missing, obviously. That's why they put him down, sent him down. But, yeah, I'm excited to watch him play, and hopefully he...
I think I just officially broke my...
What are you doing over there?
There we go.
Sit.
Don't touch it.
No, it's coming down again.
Don't touch it.
Oh, look at it. Yeah.
It's going down.
It's like
what the hell?
It's like when you thought you were watching a really, really good movie, and then it wasn't really that good.
Yeah, the end of this stream is just a disaster.
Can you hear me still pretty good?
Yep, you got.
All right. Well, hopefully that doesn't.
Okay. Well,
move.
Instead of just talking about the players and giving away what their lineups are going to be, let's jump.
I know this lineup off by heart.
I bet you do.
Okay.
So first line center is going to be Conor McDavid.
Really?
Oh, imagine that, right?
Is he that good? That
I
he's
don't
on
know.
I could have put him third line, maybe second line.
Yeah, third line, fourth liner. You know what? Taxi squad for that guy. He's going to be flanked by left wing Ryan Nugent-Hopkins
Nice.
and Zach Cassian on the right wing. Your second line is going to be Leon Draisaitl in the middle. Left wing is going to be fellow countryman and a person who he put up over 600 points with
Right.
in German juniors, Dominic Cahoon.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
I'm excited to
This
see.
asshole over here.
Yeah.
I know, right? You can tell that I've been paying way too much attention during the pandemic to any kind of hockey news. And then on the right wing, Kyler Yamamoto, who I'm hoping can keep the same pace that he had last year
For
playing
sure.
with Leon Draisaitl,
Yeah.
because he's finally turning into that top six forward that we all expected him to be.
Exactly.
So then I told you a third line already, but I'll say it again. Kyle Turris, who is a new acquisition for the Oilers.
Love Kyle Turris.
He's going to be fantastic in that third line center veteran role. Left wing, you're going to have Tyler Ennis,
Love Tyler.
who again,
Ennis.
he's another fantastic.
I miss Tyler Ennis.
I do too.
I don't, because he's on my team. And then on the right wing, you're going to see Jesse Puljujarvi start the season.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have a feeling Puljujarvi's going to shoot up there probably within the first 15 games to that top line. That's
Hope
how
so.
good he's going to be this year.
I hope so.
So your fourth line is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So they brought in Devon Shore on a PTO. They have Gaetan Haas, who is still considered unfit to play. And they have Jujhar Khaira.
Love him.
I know you're a huge Jujhar Khaira fan, and I don't
really
get
am.
it. So right now, that spot is Jujhar Khaira's to lose. If Gaetan Haas gets healthy in time for the season, I think he could take that spot from him. He's faster. He's just a little bit better defensively. Jujhar just has a little bit more size down the middle and is a penalty killing specialist,
Yep.
which, I mean, the Oilers are frankly going to need. But I wouldn't count out Devon Shore. I know I didn't write him down in my center position on that fourth line, but he is a consistent 30-point player and has been in the NHL for the last, no, I guess not last season, but 2 years before that, the last two.
Yeah.
So there's a very good chance he could steal that spot from both of them and end up with a contract.
But you also got Neil sitting off on the sideline.
Exactly.
As well.
He's unfit to play right now too. He's injured. So
For how long, right?
yeah, that's the question, right?
Right.
And that's right. Your left wing on the fourth line is completely open right now because you have Josh Archibald, Joachim Nygaard, and James Neal.
Yeah, and Nygaard's proven himself, and Neil obviously has proven himself as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Archibald's always a threat down low. He's not a top six by any means, but he can play those third and fourth line.
You know what? He held his own last year playing on that first line with Conor McDavid.
held
He
his
put
own,
up some
he's
decent points.
He's not a seasoned player at that point. He can
No.
fill that spot, right? But this is that point of depth again, right?
Well, I mean, they've still got Chase on.
Well, yeah. Well, Chase will be on the right side.
Yeah. Like,
But right, you still have Chase on, and then you also have some of the guys that are going to be on that taxi squad, like your Tyler Bensons, Patrick Russell, not to get confused with Chris Russell.
Right.
Like a couple of the places had Patrick Russell playing defense, and I'm like, is there
Yeah.
something I should know? Did he magically turn into a defenseman?
Yeah.
Like, and there's a couple other players like that, right?
we were talking a little earlier about defense on because of Clefbaum not being there, which is going to be a big hit because
Lots of opportunity, right?
but you still
So-
got Norris, you got Russell, who's always in the top 5 of shot blockers.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I mean,
I don't
it's,
even need to throw out the stats for people. You guys are throwing
No,
it out
we-
before we even get there.
I was gonna say that's gonna be the nice thing about when we talk Edmonton and Toronto. We don't need any of the.
right.
Well, I'm going to throw it up for the fans just for a quick second.
I guess yeah.
Nurse
Um,
on the first pairing, Russell, Barry on the second, Jones and Larson on the third. We'll just throw that up quick.
Mhm.
so everybody can see.
Where's Bear?
On the first line with
First-
Nurse,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Bear,
I mean
Bear's got lots of room for growth.
mhm.
Like,
the nice thing is they finished probably the last, I'd say 30 games of the season last year. playing against every team's top line anyways. Yes, they weren't great defensively, but I think now that Clefbaum is out, you're going to see Nurse starting to play a more defensive game and not making stupid pinches and stupid reads. But then you also have to remember, it is part of his game, but he has to be more of a well-rounded defenseman to be any kind of defenseman, right?
And when you put Nurse and Bear together, you're leaving yourself wide open because they're both played very similar. They're both.
Bear doesn't pinch
caught
as much. He just, when he makes a pinch and it's a bad pinch, you notice it because he doesn't have the same speed as Darnell to get back. Right. He's not saying he's slow by any means. He just doesn't have as fast a boots as Darnell does.
I relate Bear actually a lot to
Dermy.
Gardner.
It's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, because when he's good, like they're amazing, and we didn't see that in Gardner's game for the longest time because we always focused on the bad, right?
Yeah.
And I find a lot of Edmonton fans look at the bad of Bear because it's very noticeable when it's there, but you don't see the good that comes from it as well. And I mean, there's a reason that he signed a new contract with Edmonton because he is a good defenseman and he's a good puck mover. But
And
when he makes these bad decisions, you see that. Right?
Yep.
It was Bear's first full season in the NHL last year too,
Exactly.
which will make a huge difference this year.
But watching as a Toronto fan when Toronto played Edmonton, I mean, Bear basically handed us that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that duo was on the ice for a lot of your goals for.
And it's glowingly obvious when he makes a mistake, like what was the same with Gardner.
Yeah.
But I compare him to our Dermott in Toronto. He's a fantastic player. He's heads up. His lead passes are incredible. But boy, when he makes a mistake, yikes! It's so obvious that it's scary.
I think the one change on the back end that might happen is we might see Slater Cuckoo take over for Chris Russell.
Really?
I mean, Chris Russell, I love that he blocks shots and everything. He is slow as hell, and he is not very good anymore.
But can you take the lead block shotter and shot blocker in the league?
you have to rely on other things other than shot blocking eventually. I mean, how many pucks went off of him and into the net during the play-in rounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Right? Like at least I'd say 75% of Chicago's goals hit Chris Russell and went into the net.
That's crushing.
So I think Cuckoo is just as capable defensively, if not more so.
That's just cuckoo.
Yeah, that's just cuckoo. I think he is stronger and more physical, which is something the Oilers are severely lacking on the back end.
Yep.
So I think eventually this season, Cuckoo is going to take over for Russell. The other kind of two unknowns on that team is Caleb Jones going to actually perform?
Yeah.
Like everybody thinks he is, and how long before Evan Bouchard gets his chance to play?
Oh, let's hope it's this year.
It will be. He's on the taxi squad guaranteed.
I mean,
they've already said that. It just depends on if the AHL opens, if they send him back, or if he's going to be playing in the NHL by then.
They can't send him back, not at this point. He's proven himself to be an NHL quality player. He just needs that opportunity to actually play it, right?
I agree, but the right side's pretty heavily jammed up, right? You got Bear, you've got Larson, and you got Barry.
And play him on the left. We've seen it happen. We've seen Barry move over to the left. So
as much as I love Bouchard, and he's a great hockey IQ guy, I don't know if he'd be able to adapt to the left.
No, I'm saying move Barry over to the left and Bouchard on his
right. I mean, yeah, Larson could move over to the left too, but
I mean, it's adaptable, and we've seen it in particularly, and we'll talk about it with the Leafs, of guys who can move left to right and open up the spots for these other guys, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel if anything, kind of when they play your Torontos and your Ottawas and your Vancouvers, the teams that aren't, big up front, that aren't going to hurt you and punish you, like the Jets have a big bottom six.
Right.
Calgary, it's not so much big, but they have Kachuk back there and stuff like that. I think that's when you're going to see Bouchard be entered into the lineup when he's not going to be physically, like not so much challenged, right? Everybody in the NHL is big and they can play. He's not going to get run going to pick up the puck in his own zone as much when you're playing the more high-skilled teams like Toronto.
He isn't a very big dude?
I mean, he's not small. He's 6'2", and I think in that 205 area. So it's not like he's tiny, but it's just like all those offensive defensemen, right, who make precision passes. If you put a little pressure on them, you start hitting them, they're going to start throwing the puck away.
Man, I wish I was 205 again.
You wish you were 205 again.
Well, I'm 6'2". That's why I brought it up.
I think I was 16 when I was 205 pounds. So.
I would have been 18 when I was playing for the Steelers.
You were 205 when I met you, I think.
No, I was probably about, because that was 2 years after I was done hockey. I met you 21 or 22.
22, yeah.
I probably would have been about 225, 230.
Oh, that's what I am now.
Yeah, I carried it real well.
So I have to ask then, because you're obviously an Edmonton fan.
Obviously.
Obviously.
And you've chosen Toronto to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that makes that difference?
Goaltending. 100%.
All goaltending.
I consider Anderson one of the top 5 goaltenders in the league still.
Yeah, I do too. But
And that's just my take. I mean, I can be completely wrong.
No, I'm
but
glad you say that because I know even Leaf fans who absolutely hate Anderson. And I just don't understand it. He single-handedly wins us a ton of games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as an Oilers fan, I know the exact same problem as having very, very poor defense in front of a good starting goalie. Right? Like, if you look at when we had, like, Tommy Salo and Curtis Joseph.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had decent people in front of them, we won a lot of games and made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
As soon as you...
Yeah.
I mean, we got pumped in the playoffs every year in the first round and stuff like that. But we made the playoffs. As soon as you take away, 2 capable defensemen,
Well, yeah,
your goaltending is going to go down because the shots are going to be in more prime areas and there's going to be a lot more of them.
Yeah.
And I think that was why these Toronto fans hate Anderson, because that was back, when he first came, it was guys like Zaitsev that were on the team, and Gardner, as good as he was sometimes, he was bad other times. And I mean, are really the only, we had Ainsey.
Yeah.
I mean, Riley was really our only consistent defenseman at that point.
Right.
I mean, and now you have, Brody to a lesser extent. Like, I like TJ Brody, but I don't think he's, like, maybe to Toronto he's a game changer. But to Calgary, he wasn't a game changer. The 2 that I consider game changers for Toronto are Muzzin and Riley.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to that. We're still,
But that's something that Edmonton doesn't have, is what I'm saying, right?
those
Like,
game changer defensemen
we
players.
will once we have Broberg playing for us.
Yeah.
He'll be very Riley-esque. Like, even Victor Hedman went on radio in Sweden and said, they were asking who's the next Victor Hedman, and Victor Hedman was like, Philip Broberg, and he's way better of a skater than I am. So that's a glowing endorsement from one of the best defensemen in the NHL, if not the best defenseman in the NHL.
I've never been a big Hedman fan until last year. Man, oh man, the guy's an absolute animal.
Oh, he's a stud, right? Like,
He's amazing.
Man.
I would take him on my team.
Like, I think the only defenseman who rivals him right now as a complete defenseman is Roman Josi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple other guys.
Yeah. I mean, the guy that I didn't want Toronto to pick up was Dougie Hamilton, but he turns out that, man, the guy's got some but nothing like Hedman. Hedman is
he's got that streakiness in him too, right?
Right,
It's like he's either fantastic and like the top defenseman in the NHL, or he is garbage.
Yeah.
Hedman's just on a completely different level.
Yeah, he really is.
And any team would be fortunate to have a guy like that.
But we've seen
I
this.
relate guys like that to like Pietrangelo.
Yep.
Pietrangelo too, yes.
Oh, yeah, he's got to be up there.
Yeah.
But
And I think he's going to have a great season playing in Vegas this
I
year.
hope so.
Absolutely.
I can hardly wait to see what he does.
I'm glad he's
You
not in
guys
my
are gonna
division
miss
this year.
Clefbaum.
I think we will. We're going to miss a healthy Clefbaum.
Right.
Like I was saying before, Clefbaum from last year, I would take Slater Cuckoo and Seth Jones over him because he was bad last year, like really bad.
Well, I don't know about bad. He wasn't Oscar. Like
Yeah, he wasn't good.
He wasn't the bomb.
No, but right. But at the same time, you have. Oh yeah. He's a guy that he's a locker room guy, right? He instills confidence in guys.
For the most part, but like I said, I believe Jones can be that type of player. Apparently, he like even Ethan Bear. I guess Ethan Bear threw on like 15 pounds of muscle this year. They put a picture of him when he first signed. I don't know where he was, but he was like drenched in sweat, and his shirt was like clinging to him, and man, he's a big boy now.
Oh,
It's scary.
Baker's looking at.
I'm looking at man, Derek. Yep. That's exactly what it is. And I think if Caleb Jones does the same thing and throws a little bit of muscle on his frame, because he's not a small guy, he's 6'1". But I think if you're in that,
Up behind him.
Jesus.
I have the highest hopes for Ethan Bear because I love his game. I really do. It's just
I do too.
That
And he's a Saskatchewan boy.
exactly. Got to be a good guy.
From Saskatchewan.
Okay, go on to goalies here.
This is the one. I'm scared of it, but I'm not scared of it all at the same time.
Well, it depends which Koskinen you get.
Exactly. If I get Koskinen from last year, who threw up a .916 save percentage and looked every bit as capable as Jacob Markstrom did for the full year, I'm happy. My only problem is having your backup as Mike Smith.
Right. Or
Which
who's an 884 save percentage.
That too. But I think that was just a blip on the radar in his first year back in North America.
Well, maybe. Hopefully.
But I'm scared because I was listening to interviews today from Oilers camp, and Dave Tippett has officially said that Anton Forsberg and the other two goalies, Stuart Skinner and Dylan Wells, are on the taxi squad or being sent to the AHL. So they're running with Smith and Koskinen. So I'm a little worried there.
I don't see how they couldn't do that. I really don't. Smith is, like I said, way earlier.
He's a locker room guy.
Absolutely.
I'll admit that. He's fantastic in the locker room. But, man, he is turning into a dog shit goaltender.
But he's proven that he can be a good goaltender.
Can be, but that's the problem. I need you to be a good goaltender for my team every time you're in net. Not every, sixth time you're in net.
Every team needs that.
But I mean, most teams get that, right? Most teams get that. You might get one or two bad outings a year from a starting goaltender.
Yeah.
Mike Smith has about 6 bad outings to 4 good outings.
I predict he's going to be there.
Oh, he's going to be there.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. But
now he's basically slotted as the backup. There's no 1-2 in Edmonton. Koskinen's number 1.
He knows his role.
Right, exactly. And
I hope.
I think
that's the problem. I feel like Dave Tippett likes to go off script.
Yeah.
And if he goes off script and goes with Mike Smith more often than not, the Oilers are in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that trouble in Toronto, I'll tell you that.
No. Well, especially now that you picked up a capable backup in Jack Campbell, and then you have a third goalie in Aaron Dell that's very capable as well.
Michael Hutchinson.
Yeah, and a fourth in Michael Hutchinson. So.
I think pretty much picking up Aaron Dell was kind of the death of Michael Hutchison in the NHL, unless there's injuries.
Well, from what I hear, he's putting up a fight in training camp. So.
I mean, there's always going to be competition, but
Yep.
But Dell
I don't think he's going to beat out Dell or Campbell.
Yeah.
That's just my look at it, right?
Well, before we jump into the Leafs, what's your final thoughts on Edmonton as far as your understanding of the team for this year?
Like I said, they're going to finish in the number 2 slot. Playoffs is a whole nother ball of wax that I don't even want to think about or get into.
We were talking about it a little bit outside. It's just going to be nuts.
Right? Because basically, you're going to have one team come out of each division going into the semifinals, right? Is how they're doing it, right? The top 4 get put into a bubble, I believe, is what they were talking. So, I mean, especially in a division like the Canadian division, where everything other than maybe the last spot is kind of all open. Anything can happen. I'm expecting McDavid and Draisaitl will finish 1-2 in scoring again, but I guess we'll see how that goes too.
My thoughts are that you've invested in 1-2. Have they invested enough in the rest of the team in order to?
I think so.
Over the hump?
I think so. I mean, like I'm saying, you're looking at that third line, and even James Neal not starting the season, right? I mean, that's as deep as a team as there is in the Canadian division. When you have a 20-goal scorer and James Neal playing 4th line for you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so
same kind of goes for Toronto as well.
Yeah, but Edmonton has to prove that 2, 3, and 4 is going to.
I mean, 1 and 2 were scoring last year, right? They were a 2-line team last year. Draisaitl and McDavid were split up before or like right after Christmas or something like that.
Yep.
So they played half the year away from each other. And that's where they picked up all their points. So,
and let's give the big golf clap to probably the best underrated hockey player in the NHL is the big Nuge.
Yeah, getting 70 points and everybody going, "Oh, he's not a first-line winger." I'm like,
unbelievable.
I don't know how many first-line wingers on your team have 70 points, but mine does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He came out, proved them all wrong.
Yep.
And decided
and I
to
think
let people know that he's still there and still relevant, right?
Well, and who are you going to pick to go on the PK?
Well, Puljujärvi, I guess, was doing PK work over in Finland.
Yeah, but Ryan is always there.
Yeah, Nuge, Archibald, Jujar.
I'd put him on any team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my 2 X factors this year for sure are definitely Puljujärvi and Dominic Cahoon.
Yeah.
If Cahoon can gel with Draisaitl like he was and Yamamoto, that's going to be a dangerous line in itself. And if Puljujärvi can prove that he's an NHL player, that top 6 is going to be disgusting.
And
so you might actually say that your team has the kahunas now?
They have the kahunas.
Sorry, like it's...
And Bouchard.
Pandemic life, you find dad jokes everywhere.
And I think Bouchard is the wild card.
Yeah, he very well could be, right?
I'm really hopeful he gets his shot because I'm excited to see him play.
Yeah, it depends on when they actually give him the shot to play. So, All right, now for you guys to speak while I don't say anything because Toronto.
Well, you kind of know a little bit about them, so
A little bit.
Well, it's hard not to. I mean, if you watch TV, Toronto is on there. So,
Yeah, Toronto is TSN and Sportsnet.
yeah, unfortunately,
don't
for our
call you
reputation as Leafs fans,
that. Yeah, it's warranted at this point, right?
finally.
I mean, for the last 20 years, it probably hasn't been, but we're warranting it at this point. So.
Well, they've always been newsmakers, not always on the positive side.
Well,
That's
this is true. All right, so we're going to run through this. So on the starting lineups, and me and Dad were kind of talking about this. It's looking like Thornton on the left side of Matthews with Marner on the right. I think this is just an opening night thing. Keefe came out and said that he's starting Thornton on the first line with Matthews and Marner. I'm struggling with this a little bit. I think it could be good. I'm not convinced that it's going to be good because of the production that's come out of Hyman on that line. So,
Me and you kind of were shooting the shit about this when we did our draft, though. It has the potential to be a downright amazing move, right?
oh,
Because Joe Thornton can still dish the puck.
yeah.
he's an amazing
Matthews is probably one of the top 3 best pure goal scorers in the NHL.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
And Marner is just a puck wizard.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
He wasn't so much last year, but I'm taking into account that that's going to change this year.
But yeah, so if you have... Oh, and Joe Thornton has gone on record saying he feels very at home and he feels like he's 10 years younger.
Yep.
Granted, we'll see if his feet look 10 years younger or if he's still slow Jumbo Joe.
Right.
And Keefe even came out and said that he's not going to play in first line minutes. Yeah, he said he's going to start him with that line, but he's not going to play in first line minutes. And whether that means bringing Hyman up for defensive zone face-offs and stuff like that, I mean, that's yet to be seen. But I'm pretty excited to see what he can do with these boys. I mean, we were talking about. You have 2 playmakers playing with a goal scorer now, and it makes it easy to defend against a line like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works, right?
3 people cover Matthews. Nobody else covers Jumbo or
Right,
Marner.
exactly.
No goals will be scored.
Exactly. And wherever you go in the league, except for what do they call that line in Boston?
The perfection line.
The perfection line. Those 3 can do it all, right? So you never know who to cover. But mostly when it comes to an assist magician and a goal scorer, there's 2 guys. And there's Marner and Matthews with Hyman digging in the corners.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this goes right through the league like that. Very seldom you get 3 guys with 2 playmakers and 1 goal scorer because you take away
It's
the goal
unneeded,
scorer,
yeah.
Well,
right?
and I'm going back to, I mean, we've said it time and time again. Marner needs to shoot more, and he can. We've seen it. He's more than capable. I mean, it's unbelievable what he can do when he has the confidence to. It's just a matter of whether he does, and whether he feels confident enough to do that. Anyways, because Matthews is an assist playmaker as well. I mean, it's slowly becoming more equal of the amount of assists and the amount of goals that he gets each year. He does have a little bit more goals than assists, but it's slowly coming to that point where he's kind of even on both ends. But it's going to be interesting to see because Joe is strictly he's made his living being a playmaker.
Oh, for sure he has.
Right. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. And like we were talking earlier about the Stars coming out, Matthews was 2 goals away from that 50 last year. You know,
Yep.
3 goals away, I think it was. He's going to come out hungry, and he's going to want it. And I think having a veteran presence with him, someone to watch his back, is going to make a big difference when it comes to who's playing on his line. So,
I'm excited.
yeah.
I love
I'm
Thornton.
hesitant to say that's going to stay.
I am too.
Hyman's just way too good on that line.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. The Hyman factor is a real thing. Not, everybody doesn't talk about him because it's not there. It's a real thing.
They started talking about him and saying that he's the best forechecker in the league. We've heard it from multiple players here and there talking about Hyman being an amazing forechecker.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you high, man?
Pardon me? Oh.
Leave the dad jokes to me.
I mean, he didn't have this, like, I don't know the stats from last year, but he didn't have the year last year as far as the forechecking goes that he did the previous 2 years.
But his points were better.
His points were better. So, I don't know.
Why are you looking at the Washington?
Because I'm looking for the dude that was...
Kuznetska?
No, the guy that plays with...
Oshie?
No.
Verana?
Nope.
Plays with Ovi.
Backstrom?
Backstrom. There's the example that I wanted to use. You have Backstrom and Ovi. I mean, those are the things that have made NHL twosomes. You don't very seldom ever hear about a threesome. That doesn't sound very good. In the NHL, except for the perfection line. I mean, there has been in history, right? There's been the kid line and all these different lines that have been magic together. The perfection line is an anomaly, really, in the NHL. It's usually two guys that you talk about that are magic together.
They come in pairs,
right?
And the third guy just rotates him.
Exactly.
1-2 punch.
Right. So to pair Thornton with these two guys, to me, it doesn't make sense because of that. If they were all goal scorers, all playmakers, then I could maybe make a point for it, but that's not the case.
Well, man, if they're all playmakers, nobody's scoring any goals.
Oh, exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, Hyman last year ended up showing that he's a goal scorer, and I think being able to dig into the corners and get it out and score at the same time is a huge asset that I think.
And play in front of the net.
Exactly.
Which.
And I think actually, we're going to get to the second line here right away, but I think Joe would be a better fit in the second line.
I think so too.
So speaking of the second line, we got John Tavares, Captain Canada.
Yes.
And Nylander on his right-hand side.
Love Nylander.
And just throwing it out there, you can't call him Captain Canada. That is Ryan Smith's moniker.
Right.
Fine.
How dare you sully Ryan Smith's name?
Yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Okay. It's not Captain Canada.
Yeah.
Anyways.
He's not Captain Serious either. That's Jonathan Taves.
That's right. Captain everything.
Captain Underpants. I don't care.
I'll take it. He does look slightly special.
Captain Pajamas, I think we'll call him. The picture of him with his Toronto Maple Leaf pajamas when he got drafted. Anyways, and on his left-hand side, there's some conversation about this one of whether it's going to be VC or Mikheyev, and we decided that we're thinking it's going to be Superman. So
I'm thinking so.
The soup?
Yeah. I think you'd be safer to go with Mikheyev than going VC.
Yeah, and that's what they've been working with. So I just don't understand. Like, I don't know enough about VC to know why he's going to be on the left-hand side.
Well, they're high on him.
Yeah, but
yeah. So were the Rangers, and so were the team before him.
Exactly.
And Mikheyev's just got that something special to come into the league and do what he did, and come back from an injury like he did and still perform at a high capacity. So.
Yeah, if I have one criticism of him is he has to play bigger.
And he can.
Yeah, and he should.
Yeah.
He has to play more like Hyman.
You know what I find funny? Is we sat through the whole conversation about Edmonton staring at the screen. Going,
Yeah.
Baker's just sitting staring down at his phone. Probably.
I'm looking up stats. What do you want from me?
Yeah, stats on the women on Tinder.
You would have been. I was looking up Hyman's stats. If you would really like to see.
Yep.
Oh. Meh? Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Could barely
Hmm.
see it.
I know. It was very white.
So yeah, that would be second line for me. BC could slip in there if he's as good in training camp as what they're saying he's going to be, but I still think Soup has way more of an argument.
Yeah.
For that line.
Yep.
I think VC was one of those overrated college players who everybody said was going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the NHL and was like, oh shit, the competition is way tougher than in college, and is going to be a career third liner.
I think so. So talking about third liners, put BC down on the left-hand side of Kerfoot and the aforementioned Hyman. This is going to be a powerhouse of a line. Kerfoot currently is injured, but he's day-to-day. I'm sure he's going to be back at the start of the season. I like the way Kerfoot plays.
Absolutely.
He plays like a big body, even though he's a smaller guy. His face-off percentages, I mean, if you look down our center lines, our face-off percentages are just ridiculous. All over 50%. I think Kerfoot's points last year weren't incredible, but they were still noticeable, right? So, he's good on that center.
Well, I was pretty excited when they were shopping him around.
Mm-hmm.
when they were talking possible trades between Edmonton and Toronto for Larson, Kerfoot's name came up, and I was like, well, that would be, oh, excuse me, I got the hiccups. An amazing trade for the Oilers. I love Larson, but Kerfoot's just the type of player that I want playing on my third line.
Yeah, but you got two guys there.
Well, now we do.
Yeah, you got two Leafs ex-players there that are just like Kerfoot. They didn't have to get Kerfoot because they already had Ennis.
Ennis wasn't a UFA until this year, right?
Right.
So that was why.
The centerman.
Turris wasn't a Leaf, was he?
Oh no, he was Ottawa.
He played for Ottawa, and he played for Phoenix, and he played for Nashville.
I would have taken him.
Who gets him next kind of trade.
Right, exactly. But I would have taken him.
Oh, Turris, he's a good player.
Yeah.
Right, everybody thought he was going to be like a 90 to 100 point guy, and he just never turned out to be that good. I mean, he's good offensively, but
they kept putting him on line 1, line 2, expecting big.
Didn't let him develop.
Exactly.
So.
But anyway, we got Kerfoot, who I love.
Yeah. He plays like a cadre without the discipline issues.
Right, exactly.
And I like that about him. I do miss Kadri.
Although he won't.
I was gonna say I feel like Kadri will fight and put up a few more points. Personally,
I want Kadri back.
Yeah, it was another guy that I hated for years until I watched him play last year in Colorado.
Exactly.
He's an amazing player.
He played, I think, 100 times better in Colorado than he did in Toronto because he doesn't have the Toronto media pressure on him.
Yeah, he has the opportunity to do things the way he wants to do it.
Yeah.
His passes out to the blue line from the deep behind the red line are amazing. I don't think there's anybody in the league that does it better than him. Right. And everybody that's watching, guy from Wales, you watch him play this year, you'll notice it because it's so obvious that nobody else does that like Nazem does.
Yeah. And he'll drop him. I mean.
Yep.
That's another thing about him, but the discipline comes into a factor, and could have. I'm not saying it has, but it could have single-handedly lost us that series, and that's why they got rid of him. Right?
Unfortunately, yes, and I put it all on management for not getting somebody that could back him up in that role.
Yeah.
He was all alone in that role.
Oh, for sure. Anyways.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, BC, Kerfoot, Hyman, that's a stellar third line. And fourth line, as it stands, Barbanoff, Spezza, and Simmons. Another scary line.
Question.
Yeah.
Who the hell is Barbanoff?
Right. I'm asking the same thing.
He came over. He was playing with the KHL, I believe. Pretty sure he's Russian. Came over, big body, put up some decent points in the last little bit. Nothing too crazy. But definitely a strong player, and I think he's going to be. His career is going to be third and fourth liner, right? I don't think he's got potential to be a top 6, but he's got that potential to be the guy that can play bigger minutes if he has to, right?
I mean, he's obviously not a tough guy.
No, he's disciplined. Like 4 penalty minutes, 2 penalty minutes, 9 penalty minutes. So, but
his plus minus fell off last year, but prior to that, he was super on plus minus.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So he's obviously a defensive forward,
what do you mean
which we need.
Last year he was a plus 22 or a plus 20.
No,
minus 5.
Minus 5, but the year prior he was plus 34, plus 17, plus 20. So
he's a defenseman, defensive offensive player.
Yeah, two-way forward.
Yeah, but I think that's probably an experiment.
Maybe they're high on him though.
Yeah, but I mean, geez, look at the guys that you got sitting in the wings.
I was gonna say, who else fits into that slot though as a fourth liner?
Like every other person that we have.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean,
It really
I'm
is.
I'm not sure about your guys' prospect pool.
Well, we got Robertson, who they're super
I wouldn't
high
play him fourth line though.
to bring him in. If
No,
you
I
got
still
the
wouldn't.
Husky squad anyways, bring him in for the experience.
I wouldn't still play him fourth line. You want to, especially with guys with skill, third line or higher, because at least third line you still have some skill there. But if you're playing on the fourth line, like I get it, it's Spezza and Simmons,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but Spezza's now old and lost lots of his skill, and Simmons isn't a very skilled guy. He's a get in front of the net and slam pucks home type of guy.
Yeah, true.
But he's also the guy that,
Well, then you bring VC down to the fourth line and put Robertson up on the third line.
I mean, that would be an option there.
And
Yeah.
That's a complete option.
but you got Simmons out on any line, and everybody's looking over their shoulder.
Yeah.
And you got to have a guy like that, which Toronto hasn't had since Martin.
Mhm.
So you got to have a
Well-
guy like that.
I mean, they had Clifford last year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a
which you guys should have kept Kyle Clifford.
absolutely. I agree.
That would have been your perfect prototypical fourth line
I
guy.
agree.
My problem with Simmons is if he gets into a fight with somebody and somebody destroy, like, right, if he fights Zach Cassian, let's say,
Yeah.
and Zach Cassian absolutely beats the crap out of him, like, I mean, it could happen. It might not happen, right? Like, it just depends on how the fight goes. But if you lose and it's a bad loss in that kind of a fight, nobody's going to be scared of you anymore.
Well, I don't know. Simmons
I
has
was-
lost and won over the years.
Mhm. Right?
But-
Like, I just watched the Bobby Probert
Right.
documentary.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that, like, when you're getting into the end of your career and you're known as a tough guy who drops the gloves, if you get beat by a younger guy, your mystique is gone.
Yeah, it is. However, Simmons brings more to the game than that.
Yes.
He's an in
Still a
front of the
skilled
net.
player.
Yes, he's not an enforcer. He's a power forward.
Absolutely.
But yeah, when you're talking about depth of who can come in, I mean, the fourth line's an experiment, and even Keith has come out and said that
Yeah.
the fourth line's an experiment, and we're not sure who's slotting in there, right? And they got guys like they picked up Joey Anderson,
Hmm.
who's more than capable of jumping into that role. Boyd, they got Boyd; he can come up into that role. They got Augustino, Brooks. He's been in
Yep,
their
for sure.
eye line forever.
Yeah, honestly, I would give Brooks a shot. This is probably the last year for him to actually make an impact.
Probably.
Oh, for sure. And then they got this that Saskatoon kid,
Chartier.
Chartier.
Never even heard of that kid.
Good hockey player.
Yeah. Not going to be a top six, I don't think. But definitely has some possibility to move his way up. But I mean, players sitting out like that. In particularly guys like Robertson. I'm hopeful, and I think that he's going to make the roster at some point this season.
Well, I
Yeah.
have no doubt. But we are missing one key component, and that's a tough guy. You guys got Cassian that has everybody looking over their shoulder.
Yeah.
We have Simmons that holds a certain sway in the league, but we're missing a Martin. We're missing.
think
a
the only-
Reeves.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only team in our division who has somebody that I guess you have to watch out for, that you should be scared of, is Calgary with Lucic.
Yeah, and you got him with
Okay.
Cassian.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody. Well, I mean, Darnell Nurse has fought Lucic before, but I don't think anybody's stupid enough to fight Lucic anymore because they know how strong he is.
Yeah,
So if you don't poke the bear, he's not a big deal.
not in the Canadian League. I mean, if
No.
you go south, you got a number of guys down there
Well,
that'll stand.
Ryan Reeves. Honestly, I want Ryan Reeves on the Oilers because he's not a bad hockey player either,
No,
but he
that's like-
will beat the crap out of anybody.
Just like Wilson for Washington, same kind of deal. The guy's not afraid of anything, and he's a good hockey player.
Yeah. I find Wilson more of a loose cannon than Reeves,
For
though.
sure he is, but like I keep saying, you got to have a loose cannon. You just have to. Just to keep everybody on their toes. And Toronto hasn't had that since, well, I can't remember, except for my hero.
So, just go ahead, finish.
Because nobody's brought it up yet, but
I was gonna say, who do you guys think is the best player on each team that you remember?
Well, Clarkey was everything. He did it all.
Oh, we're just talking about our teams?
Yeah.
That I remember?
Yeah.
Probably Doug Waite. Doug Waite was just absolutely dynamite for Edmonton.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Or Curtis Joseph. We had Joseph when he was just getting into his prime.
Yeah, Toronto had Joseph too. He did amazing things with Toronto.
I was always a huge fan of Joseph.
Yeah. But Clarkey was that guy that could score a goal in overtime and then kick the crap out of somebody that rubbed it in the corner.
Yeah, but they made players different back then.
Yeah, but that's what we're missing. And I don't mean that we should be bringing back fighting and all that kind of stuff, but we have to have the guys that keeps everybody honest on the ice. And we're missing that to a certain degree. And especially in the Canadian League, as it turns out.
I don't think there will ever be another Wendell Clark.
Guaranteed there won't be.
Like, Tkachuk could have been that player until he started throwing dirty shots.
Well,
I mean, dirty shots were a part of the game back in the day. But...
I mean, Tkachuk could fight.
Yeah, but I mean, the difference is Wendell Clark, if he threw a cheap shot, he would fight to back it up.
Absolutely.
Matthew Tkachuk will like flying elbow somebody in the back of the head, and then when somebody comes at him, he's like, I'm not fighting.
Yeah. But
and then goes.
Up. You got to give him credit. He stepped up.
Because his teammates started calling him a little bitch.
True story.
When your teammates are like, if you're going to headhunt a guy, you should probably fight him.
But he did.
And got his ass kicked.
Sure he did. Which
was great, but
that takes a lot of
didn't go
to step up to Zach Cassian and say, okay, let's go.
But I was just watching the replay the other day. He tried to jump Cassian, because they agreed to fight, and they were showing one angle, and he started letting one of his gloves slide off, and he was holding it by the tip of his glove, and as soon as the puck was dropped, he threw it and threw a haymaker at Cassian before he even had his glove off. And I'm like, you are a cheap little prick. Like, one of these days, like,
I've been told a long time ago, don't wait for the first punch, man.
If you're gonna square up, square up, right? But like, I feel like if Doughty was in this Division 2, either Doughty or Cassian is gonna end his life. Like, it's coming. Somebody's gonna tune him in.
At this point, I'm almost wishing that I would have just done like. All we talk about is Edmonton and Toronto this time. So looking at the time, and we've been like, me and you were like, about an hour and a half. We'll strive for that. Like
It's been like 2 hours.
2.5.
Okay, let's get to the goaltenders then, right?
Okay.
Defense.
We haven't got to the defense yet.
My God.
Like we don't have to rush it. We're just kind of and it's cool to have those conversations in between. But we're talking about toughness, right? And defensively, we've gotten tougher. Yes, they're not the guys that are making you look over your shoulder as much as guys like Cassian and stuff, but we do.
They're not Scott Stevens,
right?
Yeah, I mean we have the toughness in Simmons and Bogosian and Muzzin, right?
Yep.
And that's we're always going to have a tougher guy on the ice now, which makes a huge difference.
I forgot about Bogosian.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Bogosian will fight for you guys.
For sure, you will.
So Riley Brody, I like this pickup by Toronto with Brody. I don't think he's going to be that huge difference maker, but he's going to be a better pairing than CC and Hazy and all these garbage players that they're putting.
I really do think he's going to make the difference.
Yeah, like I said,
difference as far as how Riley can finally start being Riley.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Excuse me. Like I was saying in the Calgary thing, he wasn't a difference maker in Calgary because he was always playing opposite of somebody like Giordano, who was an all-around defenseman, and so was he. But now that he's playing with somebody who's more offensive-minded.
I got to take this. I'm going to be right back. You guys keep going.
Work phone call.
Okay.
So yeah, playing with an offensive defenseman like Morgan Riley now, and him being an all-around defenseman, he's going to be able to be more of a difference maker. Because I feel like Riley's going to jump up in the play a little bit more, which is going to put more responsibility on. Well, maybe not jump up in the play, but
well, he always jumped up in the play, but it's going to allow him to do that without worrying about.
Yes, he doesn't have to. Yeah, he doesn't have to second. He doesn't have to second think it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see it because Riley, in my mind, and this has been throughout, has always been an elite defenseman, right?
Yeah.
And everybody keeps pointing out this McDavid walking around and thing, but McDavid
Although
walking around absolutely everybody.
Although, how many times did I tell you this summer that Morgan Riley looked very pedestrian because of that goal?
Oh, absolutely he did. But you got to take into account, for one, it's McDavid. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. We can't say the fastest because there's a couple guys that are right up there with him. But definitely, like,
the fastest. We'll go the fastest with the puck.
Yeah, absolutely the fastest with the puck. Riley was injured at the same time. He wasn't having the same year that he was, for one. He was having to put an extra workload on him because he wasn't, all these kind of stuff. But take that aside, Riley is one of the best all-around defensemen in the league because he can not only defend, but he puts up the points as well. I mean, he put up, what was it, 65 points or something like that? Just ridiculous. So
well, and I think he's still in our this is just going back to our fantasy league drafts. Yeah. He's always one of the top 10 defensemen picked, so that tells you all you need to know there.
If you look back at points by defenseman and plus minus by defenseman, he's always in the top 10, right? And that's got to say something since he's been in the league. So he's definitely elite, and putting Brody with him is just going to allow him to be more of that player that we know that he could be, right?
You know what's interesting is none of the defensemen in the Canadian division are in the top, except for in the top 20.
They probably won't be, no.
Jeff Petrie.
Oh, Petrie is?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
That's a guy that the Oilers should have never traded.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's another show entirely of players that Edmonton shouldn't have traded.
Hughes is there. Ben Hughes, number 4. But that's just going off points.
Yeah.
Right. Change to plus minus. Click on the plus minus there. Now take a look at that stats. Right. That's a good understanding of defensive play, right?
But look at, there's nobody.
I mean, if we looked up advanced stats, I'm sure there would be, right? I know Darnell Nurse has been in the top 10
for different areas,
of defend, right? Top 10 of defensemen for 5-on-5 points for the last 3 years, but it just depends on how you're looking at what you're looking at.
Yeah, well, it's all about Corsi numbers, and I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year, especially with how deep these teams actually go. Oh, jeez. I've had it on the screen of the whole time we've been talking. So we'll just go third pairing in Lettinen and Bogosian. Now this is where it gets interesting because you have your 7th and 8th defenseman as Travis Dermott, who was developed by the Leafs core and has incredible potential being your 7th defenseman, and your 8th defenseman being Rasmus Sandin, who is an amazing puck mover, came into the league and just shone. And so, I mean, there's so many different ways that things can move here, but Bogosian is that extra toughness that you need on those lines. So I could see that. And Lettinen, they're super high on Lettinen.
which is up for debate because we haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen guys come in from overseas before, expected to make a big splash, and they haven't. So, I mean, the NHL is a different animal.
The Oilers can tell you at least 3 Russian defensemen that turned out to be real shit.
Yeah, and forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually pick the Finnish forwards and they're shitty Finnish forwards.
Yeah, and you had one Russian that turned out to be a...
Well, that was the first overall pick.
Exactly.
And he was fucking dog shit.
You made it
That's
all
my
the way-
first.
Oh,
That was my first 4-letter friendly today.
2.5 hours, and he left.
That's impressive.
That's pretty good.
Well, nobody's going to watch it this long, so I think you're safe.
No, Yakupov was the wrong pick to begin with during that draft. I'm not.
Oh.
I think that's what we should do in a couple of these. We should go back on previous drafts and redraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at
That
the
would be
top-
fun.
Look at the top 10.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so defensive core strengthened 100%, in my opinion. The change, particularly over the last couple of years,
Absolutely.
getting rid of guys like Zaitsev, getting rid of guys like Hainsey, getting rid of CC now. I mean, it just reshaped the whole defensive core, and I think that's going to allow the forwards to do more of their job instead of having to worry about coming back and defending.
Yep.
Where'd CC go?
Does it matter?
Well, I
He
was
went to
just.
Pittsburgh.
I was like, who's dumb enough to take a chance on CC? But Pittsburgh has a knack for turning crap defensemen into good
They
defensemen.
really
again.
do.
It's stupid. And Kappen is there too, and he's going to shine. So I feel like we should just take all of our crappy players, send them to Pittsburgh for a year,
And then take them back.
Well,
yeah.
Edmonton is the same. They could say the same thing.
We had Justin Schultz,
Exactly.
and now he's a good second pairing defenseman.
Right? Who would have ever guessed that would happen?
if you want to talk
Well-
about players that were shit somewhere and then got traded away and became awesome, you don't have to go much further than Toronto goalies.
Yeah. Well, Russ, they never give a chance to, but
No, but I mean,
Or bringing in good goalies and having them turn shit in Toronto. Vesa Toskala.
man. Yeah, that's just,
right?
Andrew Raycroft.
yeah. Talbot,
Yeah.
man. Oh,
You had
man.
Cam Talbot?
Yeah.
When did you guys have Cam Talbot?
You had Talbot.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Cam Talbot was good for us. He took us to the playoffs, and we won 2 things in the player,
And
2
he
series in
took
the
that
playoffs.
into next year.
Well, I think he was also still tired from playing 68 games out of 72 or 82.
Hey, that's not an excuse. Our goalie plays 68 games every year.
Exactly.
Not with 2 brand new newborn twins.
Oh, you want a guy that's a stud in net that'll play
I would have
however
kept
many games.
personally.
You want to play all the games? Go ahead, play all the games. You want
I would
a
have
guy
kept.
like that.
I would have kept Cam Talbot personally.
Yeah,
I liked him.
Speaking about studs and nets,
Yeah.
Frederick.
Yeah, you're right. Tuukka Rask is a stud. Remember when you guys gave him up?
He never played a game for Toronto.
I know.
It doesn't count. If they don't
It
play
still
a-
counts to me.
If they don't play a game, they're not technically a
No.
Okay, so the projected starting goaltenders, obviously Frederick Anderson and Jack Campbell.
I hope it's Jack Campbell.
Yeah, and there's some debate on this, whether it's going to be Jack Campbell or Dell. I mean, they brought Dell in for a reason. I just love Campbell's attitude and what he brings to the team.
I do too.
You know?
Hey, he worked hard for you guys last year.
Oh, absolutely. And he shows his appreciation every time to his defenseman in front of him. He's got a smile on his face the entire time. It's
Love the
just-
guy.
He's a good presence to have out there. And I mean, there's still talk, like to this day, about Anderson not being around much longer.
Yeah, which is a point I want to bring up because you referred in the previous hour to the hate that people have that Toronto fans have for Anderson. And I think that's a little bit of an overstatement. I don't think it's hate. It's just not entire trust. Right? It's
Yeah, but you got to take into account that Leafs fans at one point said in rhyming trust, you know, for Reimer.
right.
And I mean,
Optimus Rhyme.
well, exactly.
Right.
And that shows the level of belief that they have in a goalie because it just doesn't make any sense to me.
None.
Anderson is 10 times the better goalie than Reimer ever was. He just didn't have the guys in front of him to do it properly. He puts up a consistent .918 save percentage every single year. Consistently. If you look at his stats from every year, it's .916, .917, .918
Yep.
in that area every single year. He never dips below that. And like it's a consistency that you have to put your numbers on. It's just he faces 45 shots a flipping game.
Yeah, but at the same time, Toronto bases everything on playoffs now because it's been so long.
Yeah.
And that's where the coach is judged. That's where the defense or the goaltending is judged. That's where the defensemen are judged, the general manager, everything. And given those circumstances, if you went around the league, you wouldn't get any support. But because it's Toronto, everybody wants a winner. If we don't get a winner, we're not going to like you.
Pretty
Anderson is a winner. He's a guy that should be there, doesn't get near the credit that he should have. All he needs to do is take a mask off like Jacques Plante did and take a few pucks in the face and get some stitches, and then he'll be a hero. But because he doesn't do that, he just stops pucks for a living. He gets his shit on every year. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, personally, I'm not going to take pucks to the face either.
Well, exactly.
If that's how you get famous, then count me out.
Well, exactly.
Well, if it pays me $10 million a year, I'd probably take pucks to the face.
Well, this
I
guy
wouldn't.
is doing everything but.
I'm too
And
pretty.
he's still not getting the respect that he deserves.
Yeah, it'll come, and the problem is he hasn't had the team in front of him for playoffs, right? And I think we're finally getting to that point, and I think we got a good chance this year. Not saying we're going to do it because I've said that in the past about teams that I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for them, they're going to win the cup,
Right.
and I'm a Leaf fan, it just doesn't.
You don't have to deal with Boston in the first round. You guys are okay.
No, we'll just have to deal with Edmonton.
Yeah. And
Well, if they're
Pasternak's not playing this year.
If they finish 1-2, no, they won't. Not yet.
I guess. Well, we'll start off with Vancouver then.
Would that be cool if Toronto, Edmonton were 1-2 this year coming out of the division? That would be.
It would be
super
pretty
cool.
wicked.
That'd be awesome. Anyways, yeah, that's that's a scary team. When you look at who they've added, the way they have them situated, I mean, things are going to shift around and become even more fluent and chemistry filled. But that's a scary team.
It is. I'm excited and nervous at the same time because there's guys that I want to see play that might not get the ice time just because of the X factor.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. We were talking like, what a problem to have. You know, you kind of joke about that, right? But it is a problem.
Yeah.
There's amazing, talented guys that are sitting in the wings because you don't have the room for them.
Sorry, excuse me.
We're just losing it at the end of the street. That's all right. Like I said, like we're 2 hours and 51 minutes. If anybody watches this whole thing,
Thank you. You're amazing.
If you watch this whole video and make it this far, leave a comment down below, and Baker will send you a signed Xander Price T-shirt.
Deal.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, for the first 5.
For the first 5, I have to make sure I have 5 shirts.
Nobody's 5 people are watching this whole thing.
But yeah, for the first 5 that watch the whole video, comment down below and I'll send you a free signed shirt.
Nice.
All right, perfect. And make sure to hit that like and sub button, guys. We're going to be doing this quite often. Hopefully not this long. We're going to organize things better, figure out our sound, and
Well, it's the Canadian division, man. You got to spend some time on the Canadian division.
we probably should have broken up into 2 episodes, though.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but first 5, free T-shirt. So this is brought to you by Standing By. If you haven't seen our videos, please do that. Like and sub for more videos coming along the way. We're going to be doing a podcast about Standing By as well. And we're going to continue with the Ferda Boyz Sports-cast. Next up, we're going to move out to the East Division of down in the States, which is a powerhouse of a division.
Yeah.
We're going to cover them. We're not going to cover them quite as in detail, but we're going to go through them and just give our general thoughts about them.
For sure.
So
Awesome.
Stay tuned for that.
And like always, this sportscast is Ferda Boyz.
Ferda Boyz.
Ferda Boyz.